Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Canada. It's Wednesday night, eh? Don't be a hoser. You're here with the Mark Order Podcast, part of the Shining Wizards Network, episode 103 on a Wednesday night. It's the two live crew of the Mark Order Podcast. That's two for me, two for you. I always forget it's backwards.
I go out.
Always forget, and I use the wrong hand because then I have to give the backwards thumb. Oh, man. We got Ryan Schlong here tonight.
Hello.
How's it going, Ryan guy?
Not bad. How you doing?
Okay. Did you travel to Canada?
I did not travel to Canada, but I am representing Canada tonight.
It's just funny because it just looks like a red flag. Like, it literally...
That's true. I am covering the...
just red.
People can figure it out from context.
At first, I was like, is this something to do with the World Baseball Classic? Oh, no, that's right. They were in Canada.
Oh, Canada.
You know, I don't remember where I was one time, but I was at some sort of sporting event, and they were playing a Canadian team. It was either the Devils or the Giants, or not the Giants. Maybe the Giants. Who knows? But I was at a sporting event, and they were playing a Canadian team, and they did the national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, as teams tend to do. And I remember this was the first time I ever heard this happen. You know, there's a line in the song, "Oh Canada." I don't know the exact line, but it's something like "God save our land."
Yeah.
Or "God keep our land," whatever it is. Like half the crowd yelled out, "You can have it." I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Disrespectful.
I have not heard that one before.
It also made me laugh, though. It did make me chuckle.
That's a...
I was like, come on, people. But it was funny. Ryan, what's good, man? You weren't here last week. How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, how about yourself? I'm doing fairly well.
Yeah, no complaints. None that I could think of or that anyone would care about, am I right? Oh, ding. I don't have a bell or anything. I don't have any fun sound effects to play. What's new? Anything new since we last heard from you?
No, not really. I mean, I had a work thing last week, so that's why I couldn't be here. Nothing fun or exciting. And just living this life one day
Was it
at
at
a time.
least close, or you had to travel?
I mean, an hour 20.
Oh, would you have to go to the city?
A little beyond the city.
Oof. Who plans
so it was
something like that beyond the city?
So like it was like a county outside of it, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world to go to. Just not fun.
It's terrible. It's terrible. By the way, we should probably, I mean, we say the city because we're hyper local here, but we mean New York City because you're traveling pretty much from down near Philadelphia.
Oh, no. You and I are different cities then, my friend. I was thinking outside Philly.
No. You have to remember you're in garbage land. That's never the city. The city is New York.
Sorry, that's not what I thought.
So where did you travel? You traveled outside of Philadelphia? Beyond?
Um,
I thought maybe you came
yeah.
north because you had to
No,
travel
I
so
went
far.
outside Philadelphia, like in the Bucks County area.
Ugh, even worse.
Even worse.
It is. What is outside of Philadelphia? Nothing.
No, you're right.
So that's worse.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, poor
not
Ryan.
gonna disagree there.
Poor Ryan. Was it so let me at least ask this question. You don't have to give up any details that are going to give up, like your real 9 to 5 or whatever. Was it was it a fun work thing or was it like a working work thing, like a meeting with clients, a
It
dinner?
was like a dinner thing where you sat and you were bored out of your mind the whole time.
Was it just your company or were you like with clients and stuff like that?
Um, oh, clients were there, like where there was networking
Ugh.
things going on. Yeah, they're the
Ugh.
worst.
That's even worse. You're not even in a city. You're outside of the city and you have to be on with your clients. Ugh, the
Correct.
worst. The worst.
It is the worst.
Really bad. I'm so sorry. Well, we're glad to have you here tonight.
No, thank you.
Glad to have you here tonight. I I was in the city Friday. I mean New York City. Took
I don't know of this city.
what's that?
What city is this? I don't know it.
I said New York City. You're not
I
paying
was
attention.
joking with you. I was just
You're
joking
not,
with you.
you're not paying attention.
I am. You called it the
Ryan,
city.
Ryan, are you distracted because of the news that broke yesterday that we're not getting season 2 of the Slap Fight show on TBS
You
following?
may not be, but I am signing up for Rumble today
Well,
just for that show.
good for you. Not for a lot of the people who were saying nonsense bullshit during COVID and getting banned from YouTube and having another platform.
No, just for the show.
Just for that show. Okay.
Just for
Hey,
that show.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, just for that show.
Yeah. Now we're never gonna know what happens after season 1. My God.
Never find that out again.
Mm-mm-mm. Anyway, I was in New York City Friday. I took Mrs. Money. We paid off the Christmas gift. I got her tickets to see Phantom of the Opera before it closed.
Nice.
So that was good. And Saturday, I paid off her birthday, or part of her birthday, because we were gonna try to get away, but it didn't happen. The weekends have been nuts. But we went to a nice Italian restaurant near us. No, not the Olive Garden. I don't know why so many people ask us, "Hey, do you guys go to the Olive Garden?" No, never.
No,
There's better Italian food here.
no, we don't.
This isn't. uh, Where am I? Ham and egg? What am I? Some midway rube? Some ham and egger strap hanger holding on, to the strap on the subway? No, we went to a real Italian restaurant on Saturday. Oh, Mrs. Money
Good.
saying be nice. I didn't paid off. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just meant, like part of the gift, part of her birthday celebration. We went to a nice Italian restaurant, Ryan, and what they do by us. And when I mean nice, I mean like it's not just like a place where you go, you know, like and it's just like some mom and pop shop that does like, good chicken parm or like good pasta or whatever. Like this is like a really good nice Italian restaurant and they do a tasting menu. So you sit down at this chef's counter in front of the window to the kitchen and you can see everything they're doing and then they bring you like 7 courses. And each course like the chef comes out and tells you about what it is, why how it was prepared, all this kind of stuff. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. This is like the 3rd time we've done it, but it was phenomenal. Ryan, this was the first time I've done it with a tiny stomach, so this was a learning experience. I had to really pace myself.
That's a. I don't know how that would feel, to be quite honest. Did you get sick?
No. I didn't get sick. I knew sort of pretty quickly, like, okay, we're going to be basically packing up half of each plate and taking it home. So like, but I did make a mistake because they brought the first course out and it was rabbit terrine, and I never had rabbit or a terrine. And I ate the whole thing. And it was like too little. It's almost like a cold meatloaf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I ate the whole two like little things and I was like, ooh, that was a mistake. Like I gotta sort of pace myself here, or else I'm not gonna be able to eat anything else by the time we get to like real, like food. But like it was fantastic. That was the first course, and then you get like the second course was also some sort of almost like an appetizer-y thing. It was like a piece of house-made focaccia with like some sort of homemade salumi that they bake into the top of it, and they put like cheese and pepper over it. It was fantastic. There were like two pasta dishes, one main course which was duck with like, I don't even remember what the sides were, but it was so good. I brought like half of everything home. I still have some leftovers, which is exciting. And then dessert was basically like almost like a Neapolitan, like a spin on a Neapolitan. It was a vanilla cake with basically like, I don't remember what they called it, but it was basically like a chocolate pudding, sort of like sitting on top of this chocolate pudding, but it was better than pudding. It was way better than pudding. And then a scoop of house-made strawberry gelato. It was fucking fantastic.
Very nice. That sounds delicious.
Yeah. And then Sunday I went to the gym, worked it
Fair enough.
off, and yeah, ton of stuff to do, but that's it. And then I'm doing this now, and then I gotta go away. I'm going away Saturday just for the night to a show in Worcester, Mass.
Worcester? You going to Worcester?
I don't know if you've ever been to Worcester,
I've
Ryan.
not been to Worcester.
I don't know if you've ever been anywhere in Mass, but if you were ever
I have.
if you're passing through Worcester, just keep fucking going, man. Just keep
I think
going.
I've passed through it, so I guess technically I've been to Worcester, but I didn't stay.
No, keep going. It just there's a show, there's a venue there that they tend to run shows at that we don't always get here. And the funny thing is they did wind up this band did wind up booking a show in Brooklyn, but I definitely don't want to go to Brooklyn, so I'd rather go to Worcester. But there's just nothing to do in Worcester. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
kind of sucks. One and done, and then I'll be back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. But other than that, nothing else is new. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I got nothing. Living
Well,
a boring life.
the March Madness tournament started tonight. Well, the play-in games started tonight. There were the two. Are you
Yeah.
a college basketball March Madness? Do you do a bracket guy?
I didn't do a bracket this year. I am very casual. I find it interesting when games are tight, and I'll get into it because I like sports, but I don't get invested in it. No. I don't follow it enough during the year to really care that much.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't either. I really don't follow any of it through the year, but I do. I love the tournament because, like, tomorrow there will be games on till 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah.
know I'll have something to watch tomorrow night. And then the same thing, like Friday, there'll be late games on, and then there's stuff all day Saturday. What sucks is after like the first two rounds, there's like nothing late night. There's just basically prime time stuff.
Yeah.
But I do watch the tournament. I don't do a bracket or a pool or anything like that. I just watch the games. So
Yeah,
at least
that's
they're
I
done.
mean, that's kind of like how I am. I if someone brings me a bracket and it doesn't cost me money, I'll fill it out.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not spending my hard-earned dollars filling out a bracket.
No, you'd rather spend your hard-earned dollars on a Mark Order podcast shirt. Cheap plug.
You know what? I would.
I know you would. Are you you do like baseball? You got your Phillies hat on. Baseball's coming soon.
It is, and it's got the new speed not speed count, pitch count. What you call it?
The pitch clock.
Shot clock. Pitch clock.
Yeah. Well, here's the weird thing. I was reading something the other day, and like with the changes so far, they've shaved, like, the average game time last year was maybe like 3 hours. They shaved like 20 minutes off a game. They added a couple more hits, a couple more stolen bases so far through the spring. So like right now, it doesn't seem like all the changes they were hoping for are like big increases, but I think what'll probably happen, Ryan, is people get used to it during the regular season. We'll probably see that stuff sort of increase. You know what I mean? Like more stolen bases, more hits, stuff like that. That's my guess.
Well, yeah, because don't you have a limit on how many times you can throw to first and all now if you're the pitcher? How many times you could check first?
I think there are. I can't remember all the rule changes. I know the base is bigger too, right? Like the first base is bigger. So I think that's what they were also hoping, was that there were going to be more attempts because you were like an extra step closer to second. But who knows? Listen, to me, spring training doesn't really mean shit. When the season starts, we'll see if all these changes really mean anything to the game. I don't mind a pitch clock. I honestly don't. But I also, if they ever decide to do away with it, I don't care, because the speed of the game doesn't bother me. If I'm going to take the time to watch a baseball game, I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to worry about keeping me. I'm in it. And especially if I go to a game, like I don't care about how long that is, because I'm invested and you're just hanging out. So
yeah, apparently 3 times to throw to first. If you throw a 4th time, the runner takes second automatically. That's gonna, I think, enhance stealing.
I mean, I think so too, but the sheer enforcement of all this stuff is going to be a fucking nightmare. I think it's just going to be stupid.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you there. It's going to be yeah. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think if there's another way of saying it, but you're right, because however, I don't. I'm kind of torn on this because the reason I say that is baseball games can go very long now. That's a problem if you're looking to bring kids, if you're looking to grow the game. So I understand why they're like, hey, we need to shorten this to a manageable level, because you go to a hockey game, starts at 7, by 9:30 it's pretty much over. Sometimes a little longer, but between 9:30 and 10 that game is over. Same with basketball. Football's a little different because it's its own animal and you really can't. Baseball, it's like this game could start at 7 and go till 10:30, 11. You're like, what the hell am I supposed to do if I have kids?
Yeah, but they don't even care about those people. They care about they care about younger fans. It's not necessarily about the people bringing their kids. They just want younger people to start getting invested in the game. Now, if the pitch clock does that, fine. Who cares? You want to know honestly what I want for some reason that nobody else fucking wants? I want a robot umpire, so that there's no fucking arguing where the balls and strikes are. Just do it.
So, how do I want to say this? In theory, I'm on your side. I get exactly what you're saying. I have a feeling there's, as much as we think that's accurate, it's still got some of its own issues that'll drive us nuts. And I think the fear is that it's going to take a little of the fun out of the game when you have these moments that get fans riled up and angry. And I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but I at least know the argument that's out there.
I don't give a shit about that. It's like everything else. You want people want I think at the core of it, people want the game to be called correctly, right? It's the same thing with football, right? Like you see all these times where there's blown calls or missed calls, and then, like they review it and it gets corrected, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what most people necessarily care about. It's the same thing in this situation. I mean, how many times have we watched baseball games and it's like the ball's a foot outside and you're calling it a strike? Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, it's not even close. And some of these other umpires who have their own agendas and do whatever the fuck they want, like, who's it, Angel Hernandez? What a fucking asshole that guy is.
No, but he's the worst.
But like, though, that's the reason that I feel like you need, you need the robot umpire essentially, like somebody in the booth basically being like, that's a strike, because then there is no difference to who's umpiring the game, which is sometimes annoying. Half the times you see these, like at the beginning of the games last season, I feel like I've seen it before, but I've really noticed it last year. They showed a lot of times, like, here's how this umpire calls a game. He's a hitter's umpire. Well, why are we doing this? You know what I mean? Like, there shouldn't be any hitters umpires or pitchers umpires. You should just be calling the game the way it should be called.
I agree with that. Again, it's not that I'm necessarily think that's wrong. I just think that some people actually like the weird way that goes about it. I
You
don't know
know,
why, but they do.
you know who those people are?
Too.
Old people. The
Oh,
old people who are the baseball purists, who, if it was up to them, they'd still be using the old mitts and the cotton jerseys and, whatever the fuck. They don't want the game changed at all. I'm not for that. I'm for evolving the game. I was partially not for them changing the shift rule, because I was sort of one for like, hey, if they're going to shift, you should learn how to fucking come in a little later. You know what I mean? Like, put it the other way. But it is what it is. So just roll with the way they change the game. It's the same game at the core. It's not like they're saying we're going from 3 outs to 2 outs and you're walking into the box with a 1-1 count. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I can't argue any of that.
it's so
And I'm not
stupid.
the shift thing always drove me nuts because if you hit the other way, you're guaranteed at least a single, sometimes more.
Yeah.
Like, and if you have men on base and they shift on you, you've screwed everything up. Like you've just driven in runs. So I'm with you on that. I never understood why this shift was like
Yeah.
this negative concept.
I mean, we're even talking about just put a bunt down. Like, there's
Yeah.
nobody on the whole left side of the field. Just put down a bunt, and these guys can't learn to fucking lay down a bunt. Like, no offense. And I know that's sort of like, I'm not a professional athlete. I don't know if you could tell, Ryan. I'm not a professional athlete.
I wouldn't have guessed.
But you would think that these professional athletes maybe can learn to just put a bunt down at the very least. I just
This is where I wonder, like you talk about, oh, those are old people. This is where I wonder, like, am I the old person who thinks back and am wrong about what it was like when I grew up? Because I never realized that, like, I felt like growing up, people could hit both directions.
yeah. Yeah,
And now it just seems like they can't, and I don't
no.
understand it.
No, I think you're right, Ryan. There definitely seem to be more guys who could sort of spray the field, right? And now it just doesn't seem like that. It seems like guys really only hit one way or the other. Um, and there's very few guys who hit sort of to all fields. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's weird. And I know this isn't a baseball podcast, and most people are probably like, move the fuck on, and we will. Eric Freeds asked, are you guys pro universal DH? Yeah, I am, but Ryan, you probably have a different take because you're a Philly fan. Um,
Um,
and the National League, I know National League people are a little, they have a different feeling on it. That's why I'm saying you might have a different take. I personally think it's better to have universal DHs, but I'm an American League fan.
I'm going to say I am 50-50 on it. It actually ended up helping the Phillies this year, so I can't complain too much. They needed it, but it there was I'm not like I know this sounds like again like an old person thing, but I actually do think it's true. There was always a bit of fun or intrigue when a coach had to decide, am I taking out my pitcher now? Am I going to pinch hit now for my
Mm-hmm.
pitcher? Because if I do, he's got to come out. And I just thought that added an element to coaching in the game of like, ooh, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? And now that's gone. They don't ever have to worry about that. Like, you don't have to, you can take your pitcher out whenever. And I think that fundamentally changes the game because now coaches don't leave in their pitcher maybe that extra inning when they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would think that the players union loves the universal DH because now you have another guy getting a paycheck, right, to be a DH, and your
A big
pitchers
paycheck.
have a longer career or potentially longer career because you don't have extra wear and tear from having to hit and do all that other bullshit. But I mean, I don't know. It's just the way I've always watched baseball because I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm an American League, baseball watcher. I'll watch any baseball. So, but that's just always how the game's been to me. So I'm okay with it. I mean, it to me
I'd
it
love
doesn't
to do a
change the game that much.
love to do a study on pitcher, and I love to, meaning I'm not doing it because I don't want to, because I probably could, but I'd love to see a study. Let me say it this way, so that I don't, because I don't want to do it. Um, on careers of pitchers, like how long they lasted and how long they were throwing what would be considered good baseball, because I want to know if all these changes have actually lengthened their career.
Yeah, I can't
Because
do
if
that study.
it feels like, you know, it for whatever reason in my head, it almost feels like it hasn't. Like these guys are still going out young and still getting hurt young, and it just feels like it's happening more often. And the only logic I could think to that is not me trying to be like, "Oh, tougher guys." I'm wondering if all these breaks are actually a detriment.
I think I think it's a little different. I think that the injuries now are mostly on the arm, right? It's like Tommy John surgery or something else with a rotator cuff. I feel like those are more of the injuries we see now, but I think it's because, and again, I have nothing to base this on. This is my opinion, is that you've got kids playing younger now, right? So they're
Yes,
playing
or
younger,
longer.
longer, and in a lot of these cases, um, maybe don't necessarily know how to throw the ball the best way or pitch the best way that's going to protect their arm. And you got coaches out there maybe who aren't coaching the right way to save these kids' arms for whatever reason. And by the time you get through high school, through college, and finally make it, you could have had two Tommy Johns. You know what I mean? Like it's wild.
Well, I will
Um,
say what I agree about there is, one, when we grew up, and this is an old man thing, and I don't care. I think we were right. Is we played. I don't know about you, but I played 4 or 5 sports growing up. It was never just one. I played a handful of sports.
yeah.
And I played a different sport each season at least.
Until I got to high
Um,
school, yes.
yeah, but high school was a different thing. But at least when you were growing up as a kid, you played a different sport each season. That doesn't feel like it's the case anymore. Now you see kids all the time like, "Oh, I play baseball year round," and it's like, that's not good for you. That's really bad on your arm. You're giving your arm as a kid no time. And like you said, these coaches pitch them like they're in the major, so they're wearing their arms out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
No,
kids. Give
I,
them give them a time to.
I think you're right though, Ryan, with what you said about kids basically picking their sport like way earlier than they used to. Because you're right. When I was a kid, there was a very short period of time I played soccer, played baseball, and this was like before real sort of sports leagues. Like when I was a little kid, I played soccer and I played baseball, I played basketball. I bowled as a kid. My parents sort of got me involved in whatever I could get involved in that I wanted to. When I got into school stuff, I played a sport every season. I played what was in the fall because I played we didn't have football and I didn't play football, but I did something in the fall. Maybe it wasn't even through school. Then I played basketball for my school team. I played baseball when we had a baseball team. So it was like, I did all that. When I got to high school, I played football in the fall. In the winter, I actually did field events for the track and field team for indoor. In the spring, I did the same thing. I did, track and field events because it was something to do. And then by the time I got to the end of high school, I just got more involved in working a job so I could make some scratch and smoking pot. So that sort of did away with the sports. But I mean, yeah, I just remember wanting to be involved in way more than just like one sport. But
I mean, growing up, I played soccer, I did fall and spring, but I also played other sports with it. I played soccer, I played baseball, I
Mhm.
played basketball. I wasn't allowed to play football growing up until I got to high school because I was a big kid and my mom was, they did everything by weight. So my mom was like, "You're not playing with kids who are older than you. You'll get hurt." Which, jokes on her, it took me to high school playing with kids my own age to get hurt playing football. So
There you
ha.
go. Ah.
Um, and I wrestled. Then in high school, I played football. And then when I busted my knee and couldn't play football anymore, I rode until senior year when I decided I didn't want to wake up at 4 in the morning anymore
Mm.
to go to practice. And I was working a job, so it was like I'd be at practice at 4, and then I'd be working till 7:30 at night. It's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna take senior year, just be lazy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, when I was young, at one time I had said I want to play football, and my dad was like, "Okay, like we'll do football." And he had to I couldn't play in my town because my town didn't have like my town wouldn't allow you to play up a level if you weren't the weight at your own age. You know what I mean? Like the town was strict about it. So I could actually like somehow was able to play in a different town. And I was playing with kids who were maybe a year older than me. Maybe it was something like my dad worked in town so I could play youth sports in the town or something like that.
Yeah.
So I played with kids who were a year older than me, maybe a little more than a year older than me because of the weight. And I just remember I liked it. And then the second week, I hated it because I got lit up. I'm talking, my arms had bruises all over it. I was getting destroyed. So I was like, that's the end of that. Then I didn't play football again until high school. But dude, they tried to get me in high school. They took one look at me and they were like, "You wrestle?" And I was like, "Nope, not happening. Not wrestling." And
I wrestled
then
in grade school.
nope, nobody in my family ever wrestled. So like it wasn't something that I was ever really interested in. And then in high school they asked me because basically they'd have somebody of whatever weight class where nobody ever is, they'd never have anybody on the other team in the same weight class, so you always get a win. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Um and then in the spring they tried, one of the football coaches all fall was trying to get me to play lacrosse. Now, my freshman year, I'd never heard of lacrosse. I'd never seen lacrosse. So in the spring, as we were getting closer to the spring and the team was starting to work out, he kept pushing for me to play lacrosse. And I was like, "I don't even know what lacrosse is, man. Like, what is lacrosse?" And he was like, "Come on, come up and I'll show you." And he brought me to the practice field and I saw it. I was like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool." But in my head, I'm going like, "Oh, it's just running the whole time. That's not for me because I fucking hate running." So I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, man." He's like, "Well, you have a great build. Like you'd be perfect for goalie." And then I started seeing these kids whip the fucking ball at the goalie, and I was like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "I'm
I'd be great for goalie.
not
Not gonna
happening.
do it, but thanks for the compliment.
No freaking way." So I did shot put and discus. Well, I did shot put in the fall or in the winter because that was all they had indoor. And then in the spring I did shot put, discus, and then I did javelin a couple times. Um which was pretty cool, but I don't know. That was it. I was never going to the Olympics. I wasn't that good. I just did it to be active.
Yeah, so I never ended up playing any. Well, I played football, but I that lasted, like I said, I only got a couple games in before my kneecap decided it didn't want to play anymore. Um, so I didn't end up doing any of the sports I thought I would do in high school because I loved physical sports. I liked being hit. I liked hitting people.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun. So I wanted to play football. I wanted to wrestle, and then I was gonna do lacrosse. I rode, which is
Oof.
the least contact sport. Maybe the most tiring sport I've ever done. And wrestling and rowing are up there tied because both are short. You're like, wrestling's 2 minute, 3 minute matches, breaks. Rowing is a 5 minute race, if that, but the most exhausting 5 minutes of your life.
Right.
But I didn't get to do any of the stuff I wanted to do because of the injury, but it is what it is. I got to wrestle in
Yeah.
grade school. I wasn't great. I think I was going to be better and better as I got older, but
Yeah, you
that's
can't
just, you
help it.
never know.
You
Yeah.
can't help it.
Well, I
And
went to wrestling. I went to a wrestling practice after my knee injury, and they're like, "All right, you're healed." And I had the wrong doctor at first, which was part of the problem. And I go, and they're doing this thing called helicopter drills, where like you're next to someone on your side, and you're supposed to lift up and flip over. Well, someone rolled on my leg, so as I went to flip up and over, they re-popped out my kneecap.
ooh,
I
fun.
was like, "Well, this is the last time I'm doing this."
fun. No, wrestling never appealed to me. And then I knew what those fucking workouts entailed and the weight cutting. And I was just like, this is not for me. I was like,
Yeah.
my high school was pretty hardcore about it. And I was like, this is not for me. But we didn't have we didn't have rowing. We didn't really have any rowing. Lacrosse was pretty much the most exotic sport I think we had at the time when I was there. Now my old high school has a rowing team. But
No,
yeah, like
Sloan might just real quick. No, it was a Catholic school.
yeah.
We where I went to high school was right by a river that is one of the best rivers to row on. It's a straight shot, no tide, no waves, nothing. So we had a teacher come in who rowed in college and was like, "It's stupid that you guys don't have a rowing team because it's literally the best. People would die for this course." And so my sophomore year, the rowing team started right when I started doing it. No, sorry, it started my freshman year, and then my sophomore year I joined.
Eric Freeds asked if either of us considered, becoming professional wrestlers. I'll say this. So to answer your question, no. Probably for the same reasons I didn't want to do amateur wrestling. Because I knew what the workouts entailed, and I'm a lazy son of a bitch. Well, I was. Now I'm pretty good, but there was a kid in my high school who was a year older than me, who I don't know why he was in one of my history classes. It must have been he must have transferred in and like didn't take a history or something like that. Whatever. He was in one of my history classes, and the teacher I had at the time was one of the football coaches, and he just never wanted to teach. So for some reason, it came up, and the kid was like, "If I bring in one of my tapes, can we watch it in class instead of having a lecture one day?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And the kid brought in his tape, and he was legit like doing flips off the top rope. He couldn't have been more than 17. He must have been like 15 or 16. I don't know how he was able to do it for wherever he
He's
was
like that
doing it.
He's like Nick Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, he was fucking flying around and doing flips. And then the minute the video ended is somebody yelled something. He had a manager with him. Some other guy was out there with him managing him. And he wasn't a heel, but I remember somebody yelled something and the manager turned around and you could hear whoever was filming. He was right in front of them and he goes, "Yeah, your mama's French tickler." And my teacher was like, "Okay, that's enough of that."
We've
And
gone
turned the tape
far
off.
enough.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely had no desire to be a prof. Well, I mean, listen, I couldn't do amateur wrestling because of my knee. You think a professional wrestling was gonna let me do it?
Yeah.
And no.
Yeah. It
Plus, I
just
don't
was.
have that personality.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Even when I played football in high school, Ryan, so I played my freshman year. Sophomore year, I did not play because I did not like the head coach for the varsity team. And then he got fired the next year anyway because of some of the
No one
shit
liking
he
him.
was doing. Well, I mean, I don't want to say abusing kids, but he was physically tough with students. Like he'd grab their
People
face
like that.
mask, throw them down, or shove them up against walls and stuff like that. So he got fired, and then I went back to football my junior year because I like the new head coach. He was my coach freshman year, and then I got mono going into that season. That's right. I got mono.
You got the kissing disease. Who were you kissing, Anthony?
You want to know the lamest thing is that I didn't get it kissing anybody. I let somebody during summer workouts drink out of my jug. So I was working out for a high school football in the summer, so I was one of those meatheads who walked around all day with a water jug with a gallon of water. And
Yeah.
I had it working out one night, and one of the other guys on my team was like, "Can I have some of this?" And I was like, I mean, there's water. We're in the facility. Like, you can get water." And he's like, "Man, I'm right here. Like, can I just take a sip?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." And he didn't pour it. He drank out of the bottle. And that's the only way I could trace back to getting mono. Plus, I
I
was
will say,
working a job, then working out, then going and partying at night.
I
And
will say
then,
this.
you know,
I don't know many people who actually got mono from kissing.
no, I got it because I was running myself ragged. Somebody drank out of my bottle and probably had a ton of backwash in there. And that's how I got it. So junior, I got mono going into the season. Then when I was cleared to play again, which wasn't until like the second week of the season, I sort of jumped back in the mix. I was on the practice squad pretty much. And then we were doing something. Then we were doing some sort of like field goal drills or something like that. And I was on the defensive team helping the starters practice. And this kid on the starting team went to block me. And he lifted me up under my face mask, and the field was muddy, and I lost my footing, and I rolled onto my ankle, and I broke one of the bones in my foot. So that was it. I was pretty much done for the year at that point. And then senior year, like I said, I just was working a real job, and I liked partying with my friends and smoking weed. So I was like, I'm done with sports. So I wasn't on track to do any pro wrestling, type of stuff. I didn't know how I would get into it anyway. Like I didn't know anything about trying to find a school or anything like that.
Yeah, that, like I said, it was never even an consideration for me, to be quite honest. But looking back at it, I can tell my mind frame would have been absolutely not. Like I said, I like rough sports. I like, hitting, getting hit, but it needs to matter. Like I don't know if I would just want to keep getting smacked on the ground.
Oh, Ryan, I remember I started that story to basically tell you. So I played football all those times. Never once was I that sort of jock football mindset where it was just like I didn't mind being physical, but I didn't necessarily love being physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think pro wrestling would have been for me in that same way. You know what I mean? Even though it's all, an act, it's still physical. I don't know if it would have been for me. Plus, I mean, let's be real. At that age, at any point when I was in school, I would have had to basically say to my parents, I want to do wrestling school. And they would have been like, absolutely not happening.
Yeah. My parents wouldn't have let me. And it's funny, like, while I liked like I said, weird as it sounds, I like being hit, I like hitting. I don't think I'm ever cutthroat enough for wrestling, because you have to be willing to really screw people over, I feel like, in wrestling. And I'm just not, like, no, it's just not who I am. You gotta.
Yeah, I don't know. Never a thing for me. So I don't know. All right, Ryan. It's been like 40 minutes. I don't know how we got way off track. Why don't we talk a little bit about wrestling? So I want to say this. We're not avoiding Ring of Honor here, but we don't have time to cover fucking everything. In the future, maybe we will have some sort of bonus content or some sort of show where we'll cover Ring of Honor. Who knows? But I can tell you this, Ryan. I haven't gotten all the way through episode 2 yet because just my schedule. I'm like halfway through that episode. I am still pleased with what they're showing me on Ring of Honor television.
Yes, I'm loving it. I think it's been great. That being said, I do hope a little bit they cut down on time a little bit, make it closer to an hour. I think that'll really do the show a lot of favors. I mean, this is Tony Khan unhinged.
I think there's the possibility that does happen, to be honest, Ryan. I think they're maybe trying to just get set up for the pay-per-view, right? Like they've got to get a lot of stories underway, and then they've got to also like get people exposed to a lot of the talent who they're going to see. So I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually do cut the time down. But I think we're maybe setting up for the pay-per-view. But I do like the presentation. It doesn't feel just like another dark show. You know what I mean? And also, I was very happy to see that in week 2, we got a real opening to the show. It wasn't just a hard open like in week 1, which was sort of weird. I was like, they're not going to open this?
I don't know what that was about. I don't know if that was a mistake or what that was.
Maybe they thought it would be more impactful if they came in and started talking about the new era of Honor. I don't know. Who knows? But week 2, so far from what I've seen, honestly, I'm halfway through the show. It's been very good. I'm pretty much aware of what happens through the show because it's been a week and we're going into the next show tomorrow. So I'll eventually catch up, but it's been very good. I'm not avoiding it for any specific reasons. It's been awesome. So
yeah, Yeah,
I'm glad to see that.
I'm with you.
And then Rampage Friday night, Ryan. Because of what I was doing Friday, I didn't necessarily catch up on this. But just to run through the card, and you can stop me if you think something was something we should watch. But Sammy defeated Action Andretti in the opener. Darby said that he wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, and he said maybe next week he'll let us know what that means. A little foreshadowing. Jungle Boy said that his chapter with Christian is over, and he learned how to pick his spot. Every man with a championship belt around their waist is in his crosshairs, and he'll be seeing one of them very soon. Also some foreshadowing. QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs gave us a promo and said next week will be the first episode of QTV. Maybe we'll find out who really broke into Wardlow's car. That played into tonight. We will talk about that. The Acclaim defeated Starboy Charlie and Jack Cartwheel. After the match was over, Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange came out to scissor a JAS shirt with the Acclaimed staring at them, and Jericho cut a promo hyping up the match that we had tonight, which was fantastic. We will talk about that when we talk about Dynamite. We also saw Takeshita defeat Preston Vance. Swerve cut a promo saying that maybe he underestimated Keith Lee. Trench and Parker are both on the shelf, but Swerve has not thrown every bullet he has in the chamber, and Lee will never see it coming because Swerve never loses, so keep eyes in the back of your head. So who knows, Schlong, what else Swerve has.
Have they killed off Swerve's group already, or do you think this is Swerve? For lack of a better term.
I think they're going to, believe it or not, pull somebody else into this group.
Who do you think?
Fuck if I know.
It's gonna be random. Like, I mean, that's fine if you're gonna say it's random.
Listen, it could be random. Like, I never would have picked Parker Bordeaux, and this Trench guy, who the hell knows? Of the people in AEW, I would have no idea who it's supposed to be. Like, do you see anybody in the company who it could be?
No, that's why I was asking. It's really not. I mean, part of me was just kind of hoping that they saw their ways and were like, yeah, this group isn't working for what we want. So let's just cut ties when we can, you know? I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like they don't they don't abandon things like this that quickly. So I'm not necessarily saying it's dead, and from what I've seen about the promo, it sounds like he's basically just saying, hey, they're injured right now. So they're not around, but like I got a surprise coming. So I don't know. Maybe it's not another person. Like it's sort of foreshadowing like it's going to be another person, but it doesn't have to be. You know, he could just attack him from behind somewhere. Who knows? I can tell you this though.
That's true. I just want to, but like the weird thing is, and I want to hear your point. So I'm sorry for cutting you off, but
no, you're fine.
It just feels like these are fake injuries. That's the only reason I'm asking. Like, I don't think both guys are actually hurt.
No, I don't think anybody's really hurt. I think they fucking saw what they got out of them in the ring and was like, Parker Bordeaux blows. So does Trench. They need more fucking work. What I was going to say, and you weren't here last week to discuss this, so I definitely would like your thoughts. What is your take on Silver Fox Keith Lee with this fucking Dr. fucking Marvel, you know, Doctor Strange cape that he wears to the ring?
I love it.
Do you really? Oh my god.
Listen, I understand why you're saying that. But of all the, how do I want to say this? I'm trying to think of my words carefully here. If it was someone else, I probably wouldn't like it, but it's Keith fucking Lee. He looks like a monster. He talks like a genius. And I just think I think the gray hair makes him seem like a disapproving dad. And I think that's perfect for Keith Lee.
I just don't know if I love the cape, man. It seems
The
very.
cape, okay, yeah, that probably could go away.
I don't care about his hair. That is what it is. We've seen fucking who's it? Tiger Style at one point had green hair, and that was fucking weird. So it's like
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care about their hair. But dude, that cape, the minute he came out, I was like, this seems like something that would have been forced on him in the WWE, that he probably would have been like not happening. And it's just very weird that it's happening right now.
I will 100% agree there that it does feel weird that it's all of a sudden, but I don't mind the hair. The hair I think works.
All right. Well, we talk a lot on this show about hair, so I had to bring it up.
Cape, like I said, the cape. I want to see the cape again because I didn't pay enough attention to it for me to be like, this is to make a judgment call.
It was just weird for me because he came out in the cape and then like he took it off on the ramp. Like, get to the ring at the very least and take it off. It seems very like the man that gravity forgot era Pac. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I can. Ooh, that was a bad error.
It was. It was. Especially because we see Pac now and he's fucking awesome. All right, moving on just so we can get through Rampage. Mark Briscoe came down to the ring. So this was some news that broke on Friday. He was talking about the Briscoes as the 13-time Ring of Honor champions, but now it's time to move forward with the tag titles. Obviously, he doesn't have a partner. So he told Tony Khan on March 31st at the Super Card of Honor to put some of the best tag teams in a reach for the sky ladder match to determine the next Ring of Honor tag champs. And he introduced the Lucha Brothers as the first official team in that match. Now, to be honest, Schlong, I haven't really kept up or checked to see if there was any additional news on it. I don't know. Did they give any idea of like how many teams were going to be involved, or maybe they did on Ring of Honor and I just didn't get there yet?
I unless someone in the chat wants to correct me, I didn't hear either. There was no. I mean, there was nothing. It was just the Lucha guys, and listen. This is not a knock on one of the best teams in the world right now in Lucha Brothers. Not who I really want in this tournament because they're an AEW team. I want them in AEW. Now that actually, let me rephrase that. They can be in this ladder match as long as they don't win because they'll do some crazy shit, and I'm good with that. I just want what will be a basically ROH only team to be in the ROH tag team battle royal. That's my only caveat, hang up, whatever. I love the Lucha Brothers. They are. I said it and I mean it. One of the best teams in the world. They are an AEW team for that reason. So I would want,
Yeah, like the Kingdom has to be involved in this. You would think, right? Like the Kingdom would have to be in on it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of other sort of established tag teams that aren't trios in Ring of Honor. I mean, that doesn't mean that trios teams can't be entered as a tag team, but you would think that the way they establish their teams in Ring of Honor, they very much have established this is a trio, this is a tag team. You know what I mean? So like, I wouldn't expect to see Dalton and one of the boys in that match. But I know that the boys have wrestled as a tag team before, so maybe a team like them, they could be in that match. It's going to be interesting to see how it fills out. I'm very much with you. Lucha Brothers will do some crazy stuff in a ladder match, and I think it's a draw for a pay-per-view, right? You say ladder match and Lucha Brothers, I think people are like, this is going to be the shit. They can't win. They can't win.
No. They 100% cannot win. If they win, it's like I said, then what are we doing?
Yeah, I'm with you there. But either way, big news. They're going to obviously crown new champions at the pay-per-view, and it's going to be a ladder match, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had Matt Hardy apologizing to Stoke, who is scared to face Hook. Hardy says he will personally train Hathaway for the fight. And they did announce on tonight's show that next week that match is going to happen on Dynamite. Mark Henry gave us a video package to hype the main event, which was Riho versus Nyla Rose. We actually saw Riho defeat Nyla Rose. So again, part of me is just like, she's the monster of the division. What are we doing? But the news sort of was the fact that after the match, Nyla and Marina attacked Riho, leaving her for dead. And that's when Tony Storm, Saraya, and Ruby Soho come out. Nyla and Shafir let them pass, so there's no violence between those teams. And then the three ladies enter the ring and spray paint Riho front and back before Tony and Saraya put their boots to her. And that's the end of the show. We do find out too that this trio of ladies is going to be the Outcasts, which hey yo is awful similar to the Outsiders. Just saying.
Listen, I'm usually want to be like, oh come on, but even I'm like, yeah, come on, what are we doing here?
Hey yo, we're
Hey,
the
yo.
Outcasts.
We're the Outcast.
So Ryan, did you see? Again, I didn't see Rampage. I have it DVR'd. I just haven't gotten to it. Was there anything in here? If you saw this, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it?
I did. I saw Rampage.
Is there anything here worth checking out of the matches that they gave us? I'm going to make an assumption here. Takeshita, Preston Vance.
Oh yeah, that was a great. The matches are fine. I mean, AEW always puts on great matches. They need to figure out something for Rampage. I mean, I highly enjoy it, but I'm someone who watches Dark and Elevation every week, so take that with a grain of salt that I will watch anything. The matches are good. The Kesha Preston Vance real good, but they need to figure out what to do with Rampage because they seem to be in a like for a while there they were pumping out some awesome Rampages and they seem to have dialed it back again. And I can't figure out why.
I think they need to get these live again. Now, again, they had this the last week, not this last week. 2 weeks ago was a live Rampage before the pay-per-view, and Kate and I talked about it. It felt like a letdown, and I said I agreed because it just felt like one big promo for the pay-per-view, which of course they're trying to sell the pay-per-view, but nothing seemed sort of like a big deal before you go into the pay-per-view. So it sort of seemed like, I don't know, like it didn't make sense. But usually those live Rampages are good shows. I mean, Mrs. Money and I went to a number of them at the end of last year that were in our area, and they were a lot of fun, and the crowd seemed way into it. So maybe if they can go live with Rampage again, that'll help. But I'll tell you this much: the scheduling doesn't help them. Because we did find out there are going to be a few scheduling changes. We'll talk about it in the second half with some notes that we have. But, I just think that's what makes it tough to figure out, like, how do we do something with this show to give it any more traction is because now you have to bounce around, navigating any of these changes to the schedule. And it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, now they're clearly doing ROH in studio, which is fine. Sorry if I clicked out. Something my computer did something weird. They're clearly doing ROH in studio, which is fine. But I really thought for a while they were gonna like tag team them, like Rampage and ROH filming together type deal. So yeah, I don't know if it's go back live or what their plan is, but they got to do something. But it's very difficult because listen, as we were saying, like when you sit there for how many hours of wrestling, it gets tough by the end to be like, I'm still into this.
Well, even thinking we're going to talk about Dynamite, thinking about what we saw to end Dynamite tonight, you now have to have that crowd in another hour of television because they're pre-taping Friday night. So like, can you imagine, Ryan? We saw how that show ended, and now you're higher than high. And now you got to come down because they're going to reset the ring, and then you got to get back up to try to be invested in Rampage. It's just, and Rampage, they announced tonight, like what we'd be seeing on Rampage, like, okay, Hobbs is going to be in action with an open challenge. I mean, that could go either. And then we found out it was going to be Phoenix. Poor fucking Phoenix. But,
yeah,
like, okay, Hobbs and Phoenix, we know how that one's going to go, right? Somebody else is making their debut. We're going to talk about that. I don't want to blow it up here in the first hour, but we were going to have another debut. So maybe people will get hyped up for that, right? It's Canada and the person who appeared was a big name. So that could be good. But like you still, it's, well, there's a time difference. So maybe it's not that big a deal, for the people who were there in Winnipeg tonight. But like, think about it here, Ryan, when we went to Grand Slam, like we had to sit for all of Grand Slam, and then there was another like 2 hours of wrestling after that. People were leaving.
I mean, I love wrestling, but that's a lot of wrestling. That's actually, if you watch ROH, part of the problem ROH is running into with some of its crowds is that they were such long film days that by the end, the crowd just has nothing. Be very cognizant that there's only so much energy the crowd can give.
And I think the whole Ring of Honor thing too is like, I think it's that the tapings were sort of also a function of the schedule, right? Like, okay, they're taping and they had to get enough content to get you to the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So like you had to maybe film that long, depending on how long the shows were going to be, to get you to the end of the month to get to the pay-per-view. I don't know if they've announced anything else sort of for like what you'd expect post pay-per-view. I mean, I'm thinking they're going to still film in Universal, but who knows? I mean, we'll have to see, but
yeah, I don't, like I said, they're going to have, even if they shorten up the episodes, they're still going to have long tapings, because what they'll probably do is still tape for 6 hours and just spread it out over 6 episodes. Like, Jesus Christ, give these people a break.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think if they can find a stretch, Ryan, where there's no changes to the schedule, right? So like I think once you get past sort of hockey season, basketball season on TNT, stuff like that, like you can maybe find some of those Friday nights open, and you could say, okay, they're going to be able to be on at 10 o'clock for the next, 4 months or something like that. I'm just throwing a random number out. So maybe they can go back and do them live, and maybe that'll help inject something into the show, but who knows?
Who knows?
So, all right, we've done an hour, a little more than the first hour here. So, Ryan and I are going to refuel, re-energize, and come back and talk about Dynamite, because Dynamite was a pretty good show for the debut in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So we're going to come back and talk about that. But first, we are going to leave you, or we are going to take our break, and you're going to be able to stay tuned and hear about some of the other fine programming that's part of the see, I'm still thinking like we bought the network. See, it's a shame. I'm so disappointed that deal didn't go through. Could have been the Mark.
We should have bought it. I blame Tony.
Yeah, I do too. But anyway, we're going to leave you for a few minutes here. We'll be right back. But stay tuned to hear about some of the other shows that are part of the Shining Wizards Network.
To thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
You want to make up your own mind about what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands?
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums,
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
We will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right, it's a podcast from two men, Duke Banks, Kevin Rhodes. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right, and who better to talk about a man's sport than two men? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the You're a Duke and Road podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit, slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
Man, I feel like I have a gorilla brain now. I don't know about you.
My God. I will say, before we get into our pitch of stuff, for anyone in the first half, sorry if I seem distracted, my computer decided as we started to tell me it was out of space, which wouldn't have been an issue, except it also tried to give me all these solutions to fix being out of space, and I was worried it was going to restart on me, so I was trying to stop it the entire time.
That just means that you have to clear a lot of the pornography off your computer.
I refuse.
Put it on an external drive, man.
No, it's saved in a folder called Not Porn.
Perfect. I do want to shout out the broadcast. What's up, down under, to the broadcast. You know, Ryan, that also reminds me, I recently sent out some stickers to Australia. We're truly worldwide. I don't know if that went to one of the gentlemen on the broadcast, but if it did, they're on the way. I did mail them out. I don't know how long it takes, but stickers are on their way to Australia. And if anybody out there listening would like some free Mark Order podcast stickers, why don't you head over to our social accounts, any one of them, at Mark Order Pod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even on our YouTube page. We've got a link tree in our bio. And if you click on it, there is a button for you to get some free stickers. All we need is your name, your full mailing address, the country you live in, and your email, just in case I have any questions to make sure the address is correct. If you do that, we will send you out some free Mark Order podcast stickers. So get your requests in. We'll send them out to you anywhere in the world. Clearly, we sent them to Australia. We sent them to plenty of places in Canada, across the United States, Ireland. We're worldwide, Schlong. We're worldwide.
Mark Order, worldwide.
I love it. The other thing, Ryan, is if people do want to spend, we were talking about spending hard-earned dollars in the first hour. If you want to spend your hard-earned dollars on us, we have a way you can do that. Right now, you can help support us by picking up a Mark Order podcast t-shirt from our official Pro Wrestling Tee store. In that same link tree in our bios, you can find a direct link to the store, or you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod. Or if you just go to Pro Wrestling Tees, you can find us by just searching Mark Order Podcast. And we have 4 shirts up in our store, 2 front prints, 2 double-sided prints. And any dollars you spend there, we get a few bucks to help put some money back into this show to help make it better for you. So the other thing, too, is I do make phone calls to thank people. I am way behind because every weekend I've had has been full up. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to try to do it this weekend. Last weekend, my day got away from me. Had to do some food shopping, Schlong. I got a new nutrition plan from my coach, the varsity athlete, Tony Nese. So,
Is he still the premier, though? Can he be the premier varsity athlete?
I'm just going to call him a varsity athlete.
Okay.
Just going to do that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I don't approve of the way he tries to handle business in the ring by cheating and stuff like that. I do approve of the way he handles his fitness coaching because I'm feeling good. But, yeah, my weekend got away from me. So if you do pick something up, I'll give you a phone call. And thank you personally for ordering a T-shirt. So feel free if you want to spend your hard-earned dollars on us. We greatly appreciate it. So Schlong, now that we are sort of done with the cheap plugs, let's talk about Dynamite tonight. As we said, they made their debut. We made their debut in Winnipeg tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the future Canada plans after we talk about Dynamite, because they definitely are coming back to Canada in a big, big way. But for tonight, we opened up, usually they open up with wrestling. Tonight, they opened up with a segment. And what else would you expect, Schlong? It was MJF being introduced as the bar mitzvah man for his re-bar mitzvah. And he had his gold houndstooth suit on with a couple pretty ladies on each arm accompanying him to the ring. And he gets on the mic, and blue and white streamers rain down in the ring. He mocks the crowd for thinking Bret Hart was entering and claims Shawn Michaels was better. Ooh, heat for Canada. And he says, we're here to celebrate the most important day in recorded history. That's his birthday. And in his religion, the only one that matters, Judaism, under the eyes of his Lord Hashem, when a boy turns 13, he gets bar mitzvahed. His was great. He lost his V card, but after he tapped Bryan Danielson out to become the undisputed best professional wrestler in the world, he's no longer merely a man. Now he's Iron Man. So Hava Nagila plays. A bunch of guys come to the ring with a chair to lift him up and dance appropriately. But that's when Jungle Boy Jack Perry enters. And before he can get on the mic, Sammy Guevara enters. And then before he can get on the mic, Darby Allin enters. And so MJF has a little bit of a meltdown and tells the three of them that they're ruining his rebar mitzvah. And he asks what they want. And in unison, they all demand a title match. And Jungle Boy tells him to shut up and says the last time they fought one-on-one was at Double or Nothing 2020. They went back and forth for almost 20 minutes in Florida in the heat until Max cheated like he always does and won. And after that, their lives went in different directions. MJF got everything he wanted, every opportunity in the book, and Jungle Boy was stuck on Dark for the rest of the year. Friedman's never been on Dark. He's never been on Elevation. He's never even been on Rampage. And there's an entire locker room full of men and women who bust their ass for maybe 60 seconds on the show while Max gets 20 minutes to do the same bullshit. I'm sorry, hokey bullshit he's done for the past 4 years. And the entire place revolves around MJF, and the first step in changing that is to take the world title from him. But Friedman says the company does revolve around him because, unlike them, he's a star. And that's when Sammy chimes in and tells him to shut up before he recircumcises him and tells him that he talks way too much. He talked his way in the door, lied and cheated, while Sammy had to grind out on the indies for 10 years working at Whataburger and Subway. And when he finally got here in AEW, he was told he was just going to be the Inner Circle's job boy. But now he's a champion 3 times over, and he's never had the machine pushing him, and he didn't need it. He got him here, and he'll get him to the world title whether anybody likes it or not. And MJF tells him he's thankful he took time out of his busy schedule of getting into locker room brawls with everyone. And that's when Darby Allin takes over. He tells us that in 2013, he turned a movie into his film school, and his teacher told him he had to change everything about it. So he dropped out instead because that was a blessing. It basically gave him the balls to become a pro wrestler. It was his first day at the Buddy Wayne Academy. And he told himself he was either going to make it as Darby Allin or fail as Darby Allin, but he wasn't going to change anything. And he had a meeting with Tony Khan and said there will never be a bidding war because AEW gives him something no amount of money can buy him. And that's the opportunity to just let him be him. And his biggest problem with the company is grown-ass wrestlers whining on Twitter about being unhappy with their deals, including MJF. The world champion, about the bidding war of 2024 bullshit. And that's exactly why he should be champ. And if he doesn't get a shot, he'll beat his face in with a skateboard and give him a headlock takeover. So Max is now spinning out of control, Schlong. He's apoplectic, to say the least. And says that he's heard enough and takes his hat off, and Darby points out that he looks like shit from his black eye, and he's got bruises from his 60-minute Iron Man match. And Friedman tries to recover with quips, but one about Sammy's serial monogamy basically backfires because Guevara points out that his fiance left him. So MJF says each of them had mentors, Christian, Jericho, and Sting, but Max has never been in daddy daycare, and he's not afraid to admit that they're the pillars and they're the future, but he's the only one that can keep this place up. They don't so much as deserve to sniff the world title. They're going to leave the party, and then he's going to eat his cake because he deserves it. And he slaps Jack on the way out, and that's when a brawl breaks out. So MJF gets knocked off to the apron and eventually onto his own cake. So Max makes his way back up the ramp. He's pissed. And it looks like, Schlong, right now, there are 3 guys who think they are contenders for the title. And I'll say this, I don't mind any one of them, to be honest.
So a couple things. First, fun fact, and I'll give it to Kate. Bar mitzvahs happen when you turn 83. Now, Tony Schiavone said this tonight on the episode, but I know that it was covered beforehand by Joel Pearl of Fightful because he told Kate that, and I learned the fact there. So I knew this too. I want to claim that I knew this. 2, I really, really, really want to know how he selected which girl he was going to actually make out with. Like, did they have to approve it? Was it like her idea? I'm just curious. 3, love that they're doing something with that 4 pillars thing. Makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of fun. Everyone looked good tonight in terms of their promo. I thought Jungle Boy gave one of his best promos ever.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy came off good because he still was heel, but he said his gripes. Darby, by the end of his promo, was hitting his stride, and MJF is MJF. Yep. He's hilarious. They don't usually do this one after another promo thing. It is a very WWE thing, but I think it worked because you had a reason for all 4 to be out there. They're all 4 of the pillars. When WWE does this right, it's the same thing. 4 people who actually, 4, 5, 10 people who actually have a reason to be out there. It's fine. And I'm sorry, I will always laugh for the cake spot. The cake spot is always funny. I don't care what anyone says. It's an old school wrestling moment. There's a cake. It's going in someone's face. And I quite enjoyed that. And I am looking forward to this fatal 4-way whenever it happens. It's going to be incredible.
I will say this too, Schlong. They've teased cake spots like this many times in AEW, and they don't always pay it off. So I don't mind when it does pay off because, usually we don't see it, right? And also, it's MJF. So I think it actually works for somebody like MJF who says he's so much better than everybody that he just gets put into a cake. Like,
I also laugh that I never needed, an older wrestler's help. Meanwhile, he had Cody when he first get going, so that's a lie.
Oh yeah.
And then he was with, Jericho, but that's a whole different thing. I do want to point out, Kate's right. He does look good for 83. I want to know what moisturizer he's using. What's his skincare routine? His eyes were a bit rough, so maybe not perfect for 83. But I wonder if I'm assuming it's going to be a fatal 4-way and not like a series of matches. I'm much more looking forward to a fatal 4-way.
Now, let me also, I'm with you there. I also have a little bit of a fun fact, just in case anybody was keeping track. So these are the 4 pillars, right? And also, maybe it's not a fun fact, but just in case anybody was wondering. Somebody
holds up a building? Yeah.
Well, yes. But somebody had texted me. There was a text chain I'm part of that was going back and forth about a bunch of stuff, and I didn't have my phone on me the whole night, like for a lot of the night, so I really didn't catch it until way later. But somebody on that chain had said, "Is MJF the oldest in the ring?" And I actually wasn't sure, so I looked it up. For those keeping score, Darby Allin was the oldest in the ring. He is 30. Sammy is 29. MJF is 27. And Jungle Boy is 25. So if you ask me, for those 4 people to sort of be the pillars, and the next wave sort of this company. That's pretty good. All under 20, all under 30, excuse me. Have time left, and stuff in the tank to be able to sort of carry the next sort of era of this company. So just if you're keeping track at home, Darby is technically 30, but these aren't like 40-year-old guys who are carrying this company on their back. We're now looking at the next group of sort of younger guys, which is exciting because they can give us a lot more.
I don't know the answer to this. Ant, do you remember who coined the 4 pillars? I can't remember.
The 4 pillars. To be honest, I don't remember. I know that Britt Baker took I know that after it was done, Britt Baker sort of took offense to it because no women were involved, right? So she put together sort of her own 4 pillars. I feel like, was it CM Punk?
I feel like it existed before him, but it could be CM Punk because all time is just melding in my brain.
Honestly, that's what's tough because even now they talk about like when we were wrestling in the pandemic, and I'm like, it seems like forever ago, but it wasn't necessarily forever ago. You know what I mean? Like, and even that, like they entered the pandemic. We've talked about it. They entered the pandemic shortly after the birth of the company. Yeah, you can pull that off the screen. Stop giving her time. She's not here. Get her out of here.
She gets time.
No.
Because she answered the question either of us could answer, and then Cabbage said she replaced MJF. So interesting.
I'm sorry. Did you say she answered the question? I believe I said I think it was Punk.
But you didn't know. Well, so your ass had to call somebody.
I didn't call anybody. I just said it was CM Punk.
I forget real quick. I forget. Are you a Mets or Yankees fan?
Yankee. I said it like 8 times.
So you don't care. I'm sorry. I just was seeing that Edwin Diaz got hurt and wanted to make sure it didn't affect you.
No, it doesn't. But I'm sure Millionaire Matt will be upset.
Yeah, sorry. I know that was way off topic, but it popped up and I was like, this is
Yeah, I've got the US game on.
Hurt like celebrating.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah. So the US, by the way, is down 2-1 in the top of the 5th. We've got somebody on second with no outs, so we need to win this game. We can't leave it to a loss. Anyway. But just to close loop on this opening segment, I also enjoy the fact that we don't get a lot of these we don't get a lot of these to open the show, and generally when they do, they work. You know what I mean? So I was totally fine with this opening the night and then moving on to the action. There weren't a lot of announced matches for the card, so I was okay with them opening with this, and then they would have had to find another spot to fill somewhere later with this, and my fear would be that it took time from, like the women or something like that. We're going to talk about the women, but I was cool with this opening the show. I had no problems with that. I saw some people being like, what?
I had no problems because I think it sets up such a cool storyline, and I think you need to sometimes open with talk and sometimes you open with wrestling. It keeps things spicy.
Yeah, and the other thing too is this might be one of the bigger questions sort of coming out of that pay-per-view, right? Like what's going on with MJF next? So like you figure you'd want to maybe answer that question up front, so that way we sort of don't have a question as to where we're going with this. So I think it works. After this, they did show some footage. Jericho got the street he grew up on named after him. And he was awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Medal today. So that was pretty cool. But we do move on after that footage to see the Blackpool Combat Club make their entrance before we go to break. So we're getting ready for Hangman Adam Page and the Dark Order versus Blackpool Combat Club. That's Claudio, Moxley, and Yuta. And I should note, too, for those of you living under a rock or maybe didn't see the show, Dark Order tonight was Evil Uno and Stu Grayson brought in for a return. for this match. Obviously, they're in Canada. Stu is Canadian. They're trying to pull in Canadian talent. But I will say this. If you didn't see this match, you should watch this match solely for Stu Grayson shot out of a fucking cannon. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in this match I said I said to Mrs. Money sitting on the couch, they need to sign Stu Grayson back up. Like, figure it out. He is so fucking great in the ring. And works so well. I mean, him and Uno have a history together, right? So they work just so well together. And I think it could be a shot in the arm for the Dark Order. So I would love to see them sign back up Stu Grayson. I did not see if there were anything sort of them saying that they had some sort of agreement in place with Stu. I assume it's a one shot, but we'll see what happens.
So, match was amazing.
Well, we didn't even hold on.
Oh.
We didn't even get to the
You
results.
paused, and I'm so excited
That's
to talk
still
about
fine.
Stu.
No, that's fine. Let's talk about.
Well, actually, let me just say. I'll talk
Yeah.
about the match. The match was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yep.
Like you said, Stu was shot out of a can. I don't know how, if you're Tony Khan, you watch this. Now, I know it's in Canada, so there's a bit of a hometown reaction, but still, Dark Order gets reactions wherever they go. They've been getting them for the last couple of weeks. I don't know how you watch Stu return and get the reaction. I don't know how you watch Evil Uno get his reactions. I don't know how you watch this and not go, I need to be doing more with this team. Like, it just seems to me to continue to ignore them. And they're not. Right now, they're in a pretty big storyline, so I can't say they're being ignored. They're feuding with, a big group in the company with some of its biggest stars. So that's my hope, is that this is a signal of things to come. I know they're losing, and that's fine because the Blackpool Combat Club can't lose yet as that group. But I just hope this is the signal of the Dark Order being used appropriately. And as part of that, I hope it does mean the eventual return of Stu, because Stu is amazing. I love Stu.
I agree. And to just close loop on this too, and we can talk sort of about what happens. And I want to bring up something later, Schlong, so I'm holding back from talking about sort of the finale of the show because I have some thoughts. And we'll talk about it later. But Blackpool Combat Club did win this match by submission. John Moxley on Stu, so Stu took the L. My assumption there would be that it's because Stu is not a full-timer, right? And you don't want to, sort of hurt Hangman or Evil Uno. But who knows? Post-match, though, we see Mox switch his grip for the Bulldog choke after the bell. Uno tries to make the save, but he gets overwhelmed. Hangman is passed out on the outside because he got clocked at the end by Yuta with the time or the ring bell. So a lot of heel tactics here from the Blackpool Combat Club, which we've been seeing week over week. So that's not a departure. And then finally we see Reynolds and Johnny Hungy come down, John Silver, to make the save, and the Blackpool Combat sort of take off, the Combat Club take off through the crowd to leave. So we're seeing more of this heel stuff out of the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't think we necessarily know where that's going, but we've been seeing it. So I think they're sort of trying to ride that fine line between heel and face faction. That's interesting. I see what you see. And then, I want to talk a little bit too later, Schlong. So I'm not going to bring up what we saw in the finale. I don't want you to either, because I've got some ideas, but, I think we're sort of headed in the right direction for this story, and there's a couple different ways that this can go. But I am with you. I don't know how you see Stu show up in the ring tonight with the reaction. And again, you take a little bit of it with a grain of salt because it's a hometown Canadian crowd. But man, Stu is just incredible in the ring. We knew that when he was leaving, but just seeing some of the things that he did tonight, dude, when he leapt over the top rope in the corner where I thought he was clearly going for a splash, and he went over the top rope, over the turnbuckle, essentially to front flip onto Claudio, I was fucking blown away. And then remembering to see how cool the sort of, I don't want to say dual finishers, but that move where Uno cannonballs in the corner and Stu comes off the top rope over him to do the 450 splash or whatever he does was awesome. And also the fatality finisher is just fantastic. We haven't seen it since he's left. So, man, just awesome.
Hello, AEW.
I don't know if that's legitimate, but
there's a check mark next to the name if you go on YouTube. So, hello, AEW.
Hey, welcome.
I wanted to talk about the cannonball spot with the 450 splash.
Yeah.
It felt like Stu was flipping in like fast forward. He was moving so quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I don't understand it because clearly it's like just one speed, but that, I mean, fatality is an awesome finisher, one of the best tag finishers, I think, out there. But I actually liked that move more than fatality. Like, I just thought that was a cool, like, that should almost be a finisher. That is so cool looking to have him jump over Uno as Uno does his cannonball and Stu do a 450. I'm just, again, those two guys are, it's clear they've been tagging together for how many years. It's so obvious that you can just tell. I will say I think I was properly annoyed, and I say that meaning like I think they got the reaction they wanted out of me when Mox got hit with the bell and stayed down, because I was like, oh, he's like, I don't know. It didn't feel like, oh, this is stupid. It felt like, yes, like a reason for this to, like, you knew they were going to lose, but it protected Dark Order in such a way, being like, hey, they had to cheat to win. Like, Dark Order was kicking butt, and Stu and Evil Uno were. It's just something about the Dark Order so much better when they have two tag teams, like when they have, Stu and Evil Uno, and when they have Silver and Reynolds. Like, you just feel like a force. I was laughing that it took Silver and Reynolds so long to get down to the ring. Because, like, if I'm those guys, I'm watching from what's the gorilla position, being like, hey, if they cheat, we're coming down.
Right.
But I get it. That's typical wrestling type deal. So it was one of my favorite matches I've seen in a while, and I think part of that has to do, I just love seeing Stu back so much. I'm such a Stu, like, I won't lie. I've been, since he left, and I understand why he left, and I understand why AEW did what they did, but I am such a Stu mark that seeing him back, I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and Gordon says, I think you said Moxley, you meant Hangman.
Sorry. Yeah,
it's all good.
There's too many guys going in the ring.
All good. I mean, I thought that the way that everything sort of played out down the stretch was brilliant. Taking Hangman out basically, and they even said it on commentary. If you couldn't figure it out, like, okay, they're basically gearing up now. It's 3-on-2, right? And they really fought their hearts out, but it was just too much. And it's, Yuta takes out Uno with the chop block right to the knee, so everything made sense. Man, I really want to talk about. I'm going to stop here because I want to talk about the finale of the show, because I think this is all going to tie back. So
yes, because I have opinions on that. All good, but I have opinions. I will say I am laughing at Jesse's comment of Silver looks like he's going to fall down when he runs to the ring. He really does. But I just think that's because he's like such a meatball of a man. Like, he's just all muscle. He's kind of short. Like, it's just like,
yeah.
I don't. If he fought, like, he's one of those wrestlers though that if he did fall, he could recover.
Yeah,
like
he'd make a thing out of it.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think, like, if Wardlow fell running to the ring, it's gonna, or Hobbs is even better because Hobbs is playing the heel at the moment. If Hobbs fell running the ring, you can't recover from that. Like, it makes you whatever. But it would be in BTE next week if Johnny Hungy fell. And so,
100%.
So yeah, I loved this match. If you didn't see it, this is a go out of your way to watch match, in my opinion. Especially if you were ever a fan of the Dark Order, this was one of those. I don't have another word. Like, it just, if you were a fan of the Dark Order, come watch this match.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a must see. So if you for some reason skipped over it, go back and watch it. I don't know why you'd skip this one, but this was fantastic. Schlong, there was a promo by Juice asking what people are going to do about Juice coming to the ring, and or asking I'm sorry, Ricky Starks about, what's anybody going to do coming to the ring and knocking Starks down and putting his neck, basically into the mat. So we're still sort of not really sure what's going on with Juice, but he did say, like, oh yeah, I remember that you have a bad neck. Like, that didn't go unnoticed. Excuse me. So we got a little bit out of Juice. We'll touch back on that in a little bit, but it's nice to see Juice getting a little bit of the rub. He's going to work with Starks here in this storyline. I think we can all agree more Starks the better. And I think Juice is a nice sort of matchup feud for him to have, because I think they could put on some really great matches.
I loved the callback to the neck. I thought that was so smart. I don't know. He probably thought of it because he's got a smart mind, but that was just makes him seem so dangerous to be like, oh, I saw your injury. I know what hurt you, and I'm taking care of it.
Yeah.
This is going to be a hell of a fun feud. I don't know who comes out on top. I'm thinking Ricky, just the way he's been built, but Juice is Juice. You never know. But either way, this is. I'm very excited for it. I guess is the only, they're giving Ricky another. He's coming off of Jericho, where he came out on top, and we all say, well, what next? Just to make sure that he continues his momentum. And Juice is a great follow up. I mean, my God.
Yeah, and don't forget too. Excuse me. Juice came out to the club, logo flashing up on the screen, right? So Starks can lose some of this if Juice has backup with some of the club. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's that. I have to laugh, and I'm not. I only knew it wasn't him because I knew that that's how they wouldn't start it off.
Of course.
But so many people thinking it was Jay White when the Bullet Club label came up.
Yeah. I mean, I knew in that moment.
Apparently he's been out, and I don't follow it that closely to know. I don't follow New Japan that closely. But I also knew that's just not how they're going to introduce Jay White.
No, if he's signed with them, that's not how you do it. It would be a bigger deal, in my opinion. But it's still, like Kate and I talked about it last week. The exciting thing is the fact that graphic was there, right? Because there are so many possibilities. There's so many possibilities. Also, Kate brings up a good point in the chat. I'll give her this. Jay White did get kicked out of the Bullet Club. So
yeah, but that's where I said, like, I don't follow New Japan that as closely.
Right.
But I watched other stuff, but I didn't know that. Like, I should have, but it just so much is in flux there, and the Bullet Club is always adding and subtracting members. It's hard to track who's where anymore.
Yep. But of course, that's the first thing that's going to go through anybody's mind, right? He's a free agent. He's out there. Bullet Club. You just immediately think of Jay White. So either way, we'll see we'll see if the juice is worth the squeeze in this one.
See what you did there.
You like that? There was hype up for Jade Cargill's open challenge before we go to break. And then when we get back from the commercial, Jade's making her entrance. And we find out that her challenger is Canadian indie wrestler Nicole Matthews. So not what many people were expecting. And clearly not a match for Jade Cargill, because Jade basically squashes the shit and wins with the Jaded. But post-match, Renee comes down to interview Jade and asks her what kind of challenger she's looking for next. But Jade backs up Renee into the corner and points out, well, she's from Canada. And then Jade grabs the mic and gives her a little kiss on the forehead. And then she does a little bit of grandstanding or, promoing on the mic. The big news is the fact that music hits and Taya Valkyrie enters the fray. And her and Jade stare off in the ring. Layla Gray tries to get involved, but Jade basically pushes her off. I don't know, Schlong, if that was meant to happen or if Layla just decided to to do something, and Jade was like, "Back the fuck up." But it looked if it was supposed to happen, it looked good because Jade looked fucking pissed that she was trying to step in. So then Jade goes to leave, and Layla tries to attack Taya from behind, but Tay is able to basically get in her offense. She hits Gray with Jaded, which looked really good. And Jade is furious, and that's the end of the segment. So Schlong, a couple things here. One, we were trying to figure out maybe last week who it could be. We kind of said, you automatically think of Trish Stratus, right? Canadian wrestling woman legend. Trish is not available, clearly. She is locked into the E. The next name that sort of came up was Tay Valkyrie. So we were all assuming this had to be somebody from the outside of name value, because if it's somebody internally, this whole thing doesn't make sense, right? Like you don't put in a Canadian Open Challenge and then just have somebody from your own roster basically be like, I'll answer the call, eh?
It would be really funny if a non-Canadian came out dressed as like a Mountie, being like, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah, I'm here. Ooh, hey, I'm no hoser. I'll take you up on it, eh? So it was good. I mean, I said as soon as it wasn't Tay Valkyrie in the ring, I was like, this is a swerve. It's got to be Tay. So I'm glad that it paid off. And for those who don't know, Taya Valkyrie has been graphicked. She is, in fact, all elite. Confirmed by Tony Khan. So I want to also comment on that, Schlong, and I want your thoughts on all this too. But I just want to tell you my thoughts on this. I think that's a win for the ladies division in AEW. And if you have her sort of work AEW and Ring of Honor, I'm okay with that too, because I think she could put a little bit of she could help out some of the younger talent that they're going to have in AEW or in Ring of Honor, excuse me, and she can also get some eyeballs into the Ring of Honor product. But I think clearly that that she's going to be with AEW, and I think that's big for the division. Now, she's clearly involved with Jade here, but this also opens my brain up to thinking, could she become a member of the Outcasts? Who knows? We'll see. But, I think that this right now is a good thing for this women's division. It's another big name you've gotten in your company, in the women's division. I'm totally fine with it. And I also want to say, Schlong, because I think I've mentioned it here before, I'm not a huge fan of some of the things I've seen Tay do in the ring. Like, she's talented, but I'm not a huge fan of her ring work. I'm looking forward to seeing if she's, she can change my opinion, sort of like Brian Cage, right? I wasn't a huge fan of his. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of him lately, and some others like Britt Baker. I wasn't huge on Britt at the start of her career in AEW, but now I think Britt has grown into a really good wrestler. So I'm interested in seeing what what Tay is going to have to do in the ring. She makes her in-ring debut Friday on Rampage. So keep an eye out for that. So I think this is an all-around good thing.
So, how do I want to say this? I think it's nice they did the first person, because Nicole. She was getting a lot of push. What was it, Nicole? I forget her last name.
Matthews.
She was getting a lot of press online, and even though she was squashed, it was still nice for her to have her time on TV, and it was cool. I wasn't sure at first if it was a swerve until Renee got in the ring. Like when they did the match, I was like, okay, this literally could just be the match. Sometimes it would be terrible, but they could have done that. Then when Renee got in, I'm like, okay, someone else is coming out. Like, you don't have this. So Taya makes a lot of sense. She's a established name. She's been in Impact. She was in NXT. Like, people know who she is. She's very talented. I know even if you're not a huge fan, you can at least acknowledge that she brings stuff to the table, which you did. I'm not saying you didn't. I gotta fix my screen.
Canada, my goodness.
I know, what the hell.
Whoa.
Peters back.
All right.
There you go. she's very good at her character work, which I think is huge because it brings up another character to the women's division, which they might need. Her versus Jade is a lot of fun as a feud. I don't know if she's going to win, but I could actually see it, which makes me happy because she's a big enough name to take it off of Jade. If you're not going to put it on a name of someone who's actually going to be made by the win, then you have to put it on someone who's of the footing where you're like, okay, this makes sense.
Right. And Taya can make the next person.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, if you're not going to do that with Jade, you has to be of that level. The weird thing is you said about the Outcast, maybe, but she's coming in as a face because she's going against Jade and being like, hey, so I don't know if she's gonna go with the Outcast. I also don't know if they need her. I think they work as the trio. I know some people are not thrilled with that storyline. I disagree, but that's just me. But I think she would probably be best served doing her own thing because truthfully, I don't want to tie up the entire women's division in that storyline. I want others existing in their own universe.
No, I agree with you. I think that if they're going to do something at some point where maybe she joins the Outcasts, it would have to be for a blood and guts, right?
Yes.
Like they need 5. So you tie her up in the blood and guts and then she can move out of that, right? But I think you're right. She's clearly being brought in as the face to go against Jade, which is fine. But we've seen this happen with the Outcasts, right? They all came in as faces and now they're all heels, right? So, I mean, it's possible, but I don't want to see it go there immediately. I'm just saying it's something that they could sort of think about.
Down the road, it could absolutely happen.
She's not a homegrown talent, so it makes sense. It fits that sort of story, but it would take a few things for them to get there. So either way, I think this is a win for the company. I think this is good for the division, and I'm excited to see what Taya can do with Jade. And then if assuming she dethrones Jade, gives her that first loss, see what she can do to help, sort of make the next person up.
Yeah, I'm completely with you.
So Schlong, we go backstage and Ricky Starks is being interviewed by Schiavone. And he says he's glad that Juice is jealous and he deserves the attention. Juice is part of the Bullet Club, and that was great in maybe 2015, but maybe he should stand on his own 2 feet now. He should probably learn better and about getting involved in groups. But here he is doing it again, and he tells Juice to bring it anytime, any place. So we're clearly involved in this, right? I think we talked about it just with what they had from Juice. I think there's a possibility that maybe we see somebody else from the club show up to maybe give a little backup. That sort of ties into the Canadian return that they announced sort of tonight. There is going to be a Forbidden Door 2. We're going to talk about that in news and notes. So we'll give you the details on that. But I think that this can play out to be a good series of matches and storyline because I think Juice is a great wrestler. I think Ricky's a great wrestler. They could put on some really nice matches.
Yeah, I have nothing really to add because you nailed it. So
totally fine. Schlong, maybe one of the most controversial, not because of what happened, but one of the most controversial segments of the night happens next. It is the premiere of QTV. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but it is basically like a TMZ style vignette. And QT Marshall is holding court sort of in that same office style setting. He's got his water bottle. And we see Hobbs sitting there, Aaron Solo sitting there, and a couple other people. I didn't recognize any of the other faces. At first, I thought RJ City was in the back.
Yes, he was.
Him? Okay,
that was RJ City.
It's the other, but he didn't say anything. It was the other two.
No.
The young
I don't know
lady
who the Australian.
there,
I don't know who she was.
And then the guy sitting next to her. I'm not sure who they were, but they talk about Wardlow having a tough week, and they said, "Oh, it's a shame that there's no video footage." And then they show video footage, and it's Aaron Solo breaking into the car and taking the belt. I think he even says the idiot left it in his car. He steals his suitcase. And then when they go back, they mock Wardlow a little bit. QT reveals that they have his passport, so he's not going to be getting in Canada. And then Hobbs welcomes him. He says, "Welcome to Will's world, bitch." And that's the end of the segment. Schlong, I'm going to tell you this. This might come as a surprise to you. I loved this. I loved the TMZ style angle. Now, do I love Hobbs being involved with this? No, I do not. But do I love the fact that this is a TMZ style, sort of vignette that I could see them continue to do with or without Hobbs? I thought it was funny. I also love the fact that they're taking a shoot and moving it to a work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that they were so good on the details too. Like Solo takes the belt, and that could have been it. But then he also takes the suitcase because that was the story, right? Everything got taken. His suitcase, the belt. So I love the fact that the continuity of the shoot being, turned into a work. I'm okay with this. Again, I don't want to necessarily see Hobbs be part of this in the long run, but for what this was, I fucking loved it, dude. I loved it.
Okay, I'm shocked that you did because I didn't know if this would be in your wheelhouse. Of course, I loved it. I mean, it'd be kind of funny if I came out hating it, like if we completely reversed positions. But no, I thought it was amazing. I'm with you. Love turning something real into a storyline. Might as well make use of a bad situation. I don't think Hobbs is going to be in it long term. I think if I'm booking this, and I am not as good a booker as anyone else, but if I am, I almost make QTV as like a floating thing. Like he moves on to the next big story, like whoever heel he ties himself to, because it's just so funny as they sit there and mock. I was dying at RJ just sitting in the background, just chilling. That's what made me really, really laugh. So I'm all for it. There was a little dust up on online this week between QT and a writer. We don't have to go into that too much, but I will say
it wasn't Jesse Ozog, was it?
It was Jesse Ozog. No, it was Raj Giri, I think.
No, that's fine. I know it wasn't Jesse.
Okay, I know, but I'm just in case people are like, well, then I know who. The dust up is not what I care about. What I care about is I am a big fan of QT Marshall. I think QT consistently gets reactions, the right kind of reactions. He doesn't get the get off our TV reaction. He gets the I want to boo you reaction, which is like he's a good in-ring worker. He gets the reactions. I think he's great with these young kids. I still think he would thrive in ROH, but if they want to use him in this role, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
and Cabbage Sensei, real quick. Are we still operating that the break-in was a shoot? I started thinking it was a work all along. As far as we know, and all reports are that it actually happened.
Yeah, I believe that the report. I believe that from what we were seeing was the fact that there was an actual police report filed, which would mean that it's real.
You don't do that for a fake.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody has a police report, so it's all hearsay and innuendo, as some of our friends in the podcast world say. But yeah, Schlong, I fucking loved it. I'm with you. Move QT on to other stuff, and this I think is fun to do. It doesn't need to be every week. It could be.
It'll burn out if it's every week. Just every so often come in with the Q. Like let him do stuff. Like I'm not saying you can only use him, extremely sparingly, but only do this segment sparingly. Like
absolutely
around big events.
Absolutely. So Schlong, we move into our next match of the night. It was Jeff Jarrett versus Orange Cassidy for the new AEW International Championship. It's just replacing the All Atlantic in conjunction with Shazam. I can't tell you how many fucking times I heard Shazam tonight that I wanted to fucking shoot myself in the face. But corporate synergy is good, I guess. Listen, I'll cut to the end. Orange Cassidy wins by pinfall with the Orange Punch, retaining the AEW International Championship. There was some shenanigans at the end. It looked like the guitar was going to be used. The referee gets knocked out. Aubrey comes in to make the save. We see Satnam Singh and Sanjay get thrown out because it looked like they were going to utilize the guitar, and Aubrey threw them out. Jay Lethal gets involved almost, and that's when Trent makes the save. and they brawl out. And so Orange Cassidy's able to overcome this. And honestly, I didn't have a problem with this match long. It is just amazing to think that it's 2023 and we're seeing Orange Cassidy against Double J, Jeff Jarrett for a championship. I mean, Jeff Jarrett's got to be having, like the year of his life, man. I mean, it's crazy. But it also is wild that we've seen Orange Cassidy wrestle both Jeff Jarrett and Will Ospreay in like the last calendar year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just wild.
Orange Cassidy deserves a title, so I'm glad he has one. I know our brethren over at the Shining Wizards don't really appreciate the international title. Sorry, I do. I like it. I think it's fun. Deal with it. This match was a lot of fun to me. I said when Jeff Jarrett came in, I didn't want him to be on my TV a lot. I wanted him to have his run and go out. I didn't think he'd be this entertaining, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I'm highly enjoying him, so I'm not going to complain too heavily. I bought a ticket when what's his name? When Jay Lethal hit Orange Cassidy with the award, I bought it. I was like, oh crap, they are actually going to give this to Jeff Jarrett. So I thought it was a fun match when he mimicked putting his hands in the pocket, but he didn't have pockets, so but he didn't want to put his hands down his trunk, so he kind of like just faked it. Yeah, I enjoyed the whole match. Orange Cassidy's one-legged kip up. I mean, I don't care when that looks almost impossible. Like how he did that. Listen, let me first, Jeff Jarrett again. I said I didn't think he'd be this entertaining. He's been highly entertaining. People may not be into him. I'm into him for the role they have him in. He's not winning any titles, and that's fine. Orange Cassidy deserves so much credit for how good he is. He's funny, he's a good character, and he can wrestle. So that's, thing. Now, there's a couple things here. Cabbage Sensei, and I did see this. Chucky T had T surgery, so he wasn't out for the save. He showed a picture of himself online. I don't think that's why the best friends were replaced in the Battle Royal. I don't think the timing lines up, but maybe.
I think that if you ask, I think we talked about this last week, just so you know, Schlong. I think it became clear when Danhausen took the pin. That's why.
We predicted that ahead of time.
Yep.
Gordon Post likes the international title more than the TNT title. Currently, so do I, because it's defended a lot more and a lot more fun. Because the TNT title was great when it was defended all the time, and now it just doesn't get defended. Whereas the international title, Orange Cassidy's defending it every week.
Yeah.
And sorry to go through all these comments, but
this
is where these are great. I do kind of wish people from another country could challenge for the belt. But these matches have been great. That's the one thing I'm missing. I liked when Pac was taking it around to like the indies and stuff, and it was like their floating belt. I kind of wish they'd get back to that. But when they do that, they then have to make the TNT title a regularly defended title again. Like you can't.
Yeah.
You need to replace send the international to all these various indies so that it gets defended in these cool places, and it's kind of like your traveling belt to keep you in getting screen time elsewhere. But then your TNT title needs to be defended just as much as the international title is.
Yeah, and I think that there's the possibility that somebody from outside the company can win the belt as long as there's a working relationship, right? So like New Japan or AAA or whoever they've got their relationships with, they could pull that trigger if they want to, and then the belt is essentially traveling. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to put it on the right person to do that, right? And for Pac, it made sense because he was traveling to Europe and back, right? So like it made sense and the belt was being seen. I just don't think Orange Cassidy's doing that type of stuff, right? So I think if you find the right guy to do that, I don't think they're opposed to it. They've done it. I just think it has to make sense for them. And right now, Orange Cassidy's not the guy who's doing international indie dates. You know what I mean? So that's probably why it's not happening, getting defended on foreign soil and stuff like that. But either way, Orange Cassidy is the fucking man. And this match I thought was good. And again, I'll say it, Jeff Jarrett is perfectly fine in the ring. I have no problem with what he's bringing in the ring. I'm okay with this. I don't know where they're going from here. I think there's still that issue with Jay Lethal and the best friends, so we'll see. But either way, the next thing we move on to is we get a new music video for the Acclaimed. So we see that. And then we get the Outcasts making their entrance to the ring, and they get on the mic. And Ruby Soho wants to tell us a story. And she said that once upon a time, the grass was greener at AEW until a couple of bitches came along and pissed all over the grass.
Get it,
And
female dogs.
I get it. Totally get it. And then Saraya says that we show bitches that aren't housebroken that AEW is their house. We should all be kissing the ground they walk on because without them, there is no division. And Toni Storm says that she wore her smile on her face, but no one appreciated her. And meanwhile, the current champion cheated to beat her, and we all loved it. They're having too much fun going through each entitled rookie one after the other, from Willow Nightingale to Riho to Britt Baker to Jamie Hayter. And that's when Team DMD run in. They quickly get overwhelmed by the numbers game, and there's a no future, Storm Zero, and then Riho, Sky Blue, and Willow Nightingale run in to make the save, and we go to break. Now, Schlong, we clearly see sort of like this alliance forming between people who are heels and faces who are homegrown talent, right? So sort of like Britt and Hayter are supposed to be the heels. I know Jamie's not really a heel, really a heel, but she's aligned with a heel, right? And you've got Riho, Sky Blue, and Willow who are really just bubblegum baby faces. So we sort of see this alliance forming, which is, we're sort of saying, are we going to get to a blood and guts? Maybe, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Can I tell you my favorite part of this segment?
Sure.
Saraya getting twats over on the air. I didn't think that was passable by the censors, but I was like, God bless her heart. I didn't have a problem with this. And I love the fact that Britt took her belt off and it was the one that got spray painted and ruined by the Outcasts.
Yeah, so Britt has kind of turned face. She's, like Cabbage is saying, she's face now. They've kind of, with this story, cemented the flip at this point.
Well, with this story, yes.
Yeah.
But if you...
She was a tweener when Jamie first won.
And I just wanted to say, I think if you're looking sort of at the internal workings of the division, right, she would still sort of be a heel. She's got those... There were those sort of feuds that ran deep in the past with some of these faces. So to them, they're still sort of that heel baby face. But to us on the outside, she's pretty much a face.
Yeah. So is Sheeta hurt?
Who the fuck knows, to be honest.
Because she should be like, she should have come out and made the save there. But then again, I don't want to, like, she could be, her story could be something different, and I'm okay with that. So we'll see what happens with Sheeta, because she realistically was like the one that should have been making that save, but we'll find out. Yeah, it was nice to see Riho, Sky Blue, and Willow run out, and Riho's a former champion, so there's a moment there where she looks at Hayter, and it's kind of like, we're getting along now for this reason. Let's do this. I'm a fan of this storyline. I know some people aren't. Cabbage is saying she is in Japan. Okay. I'm a fan of the storyline. I know some people aren't. Listen, I guess I just like the traditional. Sometimes I fall in that I like the traditional wrestling style storyline. Bad guys being dicks for no reason and good guys fighting them. I know people had issues with some of the stuff they said, but to me, it's like, they have to take easy. Sometimes you have to take easy bait to get the heat anymore. You can't necessarily. It's not always the easiest to get it over other ways. So you take the easy shot. You make fun of looks, you make fun of size, you make fun of whatever. But I enjoy it. I think the group makes sense. I don't know why people are so down on Saraya. I know some of her matches when she came back were rough. I think she looked really good at the pay-per-view. And I love the whole thing. And I think Ruby has fit in so well to this storyline that it's been perfect.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this too, Schlong, because we've been so, I mean, it's noted. We've been so critical of the women's division for a long time here. And I don't have a problem with this because we're seeing more of the women's division involved, right? It's not the entire women's division, but it's more of it, right? And now, especially inserting Sky Blue and Willow into this, two of the younger, sort of talent in the women's division. So we're still relying heavily on Britt Baker, who's been there since day one. Jamie Hayter came in. She's been there longer than some of these other ladies. It's nice to see them involving more women and getting them involved. So I don't have a problem with this from that perspective at all. The story also, to me, classic wrestling storyline, I don't have a problem with it. I think that as long as we get to the end of this story and there's that payoff that we hope to see, maybe a blood and guts, maybe not. Maybe it's some other sort of gang warfare blow off. Who knows? I don't mind it. We talked about the name a little bit. I don't necessarily love the name. It's very close to the Outsiders. And they're also running around with spray paint. So it is very similar to that, but I don't necessarily have a problem. So we'll see where they go.
The name is similar, but it's whatever. I as much as I want to be annoyed, I get what they're doing.
Of course. And you had to give them a name, right? Like you had to come up with some name for them. So it fits. Moving on from this, the Acclaimed, 2.0 cut a promo about the Acclaimed's music video. They said they loved it and found it entertaining, and it did get Daddy Magic's nipples hard. But they're upset that they've turned down the offer to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. So they're going to show them a little something on Rampage. So we'll see 2.0 in action. Phoenix also cuts a promo about how he fought and scraped and wrestled for free to get to where he is today, and he's answering Will Hobbs' open challenge. We talked about that before. Poor Phoenix is going to bump all over the fucking place and make Hobbs look like $1 million, but don't know if it's going to go his way.
Yeah.
So Schlong, we get now to the main event. It's the House of Black versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. That's Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Guevara versus the Elite, obviously Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, for the AEW World Trios Championship. It's a three-way match. It's not like a fatal three-way or anything like that. So two teams in the ring at once, right? It's a standard sort of tag team, but there's three teams who could tag in and out. Obviously, we notice, maybe people do, but I notice immediately all the time, why are the champs coming out first? Well, duh, because you've got two of the biggest hometowners coming out in the main event. You can't have them come out last. So you can't have the champions come out last. So you bring them out first. Huge pop for the Elite and Kenny Omega when they come out. Kenny from Winnipeg. And then the JAS making the appearance final. Jericho, obviously another hometowner. Ted Irvine's in the front row too. So nice moment for them. And this crowd, they made mention very, very early on that Jericho and Kenny have not shared a ring together, especially in Winnipeg. So I think everybody was waiting for the moment they would get in the ring together. And we get it early on, but it sort of gets broken up and they come back to it later. So that was great to see. Now, I'll say this match I thought was fantastic all the way up until the fucking finish, because I think they were clearly short on the time. This went all the way to 10 o'clock plus like a minute late. So they were clearly strapped for time. I noticed the same thing. Sloanamite says it in the chat. Explain why they even bothered to tag when they pinned the wrong guy at the end. I clearly think, Sloan, it was just a time thing. They had to get the pin in and it had to go the way it needed to go, right? So we do get to the end. This went the way I think everybody thought it would. The House of Black win by pinfall with Dante's Inferno from Brody on Daniel Garcia. Although Brody goes for the pin, Buddy does come in to sort of get on top because he was the legal man. I don't think Garcia was legal, but this match needed to end and wrap up. So the other thing, Schlong, I'm going to call out too, is that at one point in the middle of the match, they go backstage and we see that the Dark Order is still sort of brawling around. The Dark Order, along with Hangman, I should say, are brawling around with the Blackpool Combat Club. So we don't know what's going to happen. And then post-match, Hager starts to make his entrance down the ramp to check on his pals. He gets overwhelmed by the House of Black. He's not able to do anything. So there's a little bit of a brawl going on. And then Hangman Adam Page and the Blackpool Combat Club with the Dark Order wind up sort of spilling out into the ramp. Hangman makes his way down towards the ring, brawling with Blackpool Combat Club. And then he gets in the ring, and the Combat Club is sort of going to attack Hangman, but that's when the Elite jump in behind Hangman Adam Page, and Blackpool Combat Club stands down. Hangman is sort of unaware of what's going on behind him, and the Blackpool Combat Club turn and walk away. That's when Hangman slowly turns to see the Elite, and unfortunately, we're out of time. The show goes off the air, so we don't know what happened after that. I'm sure that there are clips online. I wasn't able to see anything as we came onto the air, and I haven't been able to check. But I'm sure that Hangman was probably surprised to see the Elite behind him. Not sure if there was a nod or a wink or anything like that. But Schlong, this is where I sort of wanted to halt the conversation before, because I think this puts the Dark Order in a unique storyline situation. Because I think, obviously, they have this issue with the Blackpool Combat Club. Hangman is involved in that. But now the Elite sort of makes the save. I almost feel like they could also put the Dark Order in a position where now sort of like they are sort of fighting for Hangman, sort of like the Elite is. You know what I mean? Like for sort of like his allegiance. Not for him to like make a call, but like clearly now there's these two teams that sort of want Hangman to align with them and sort of be their friend or be on their side. So I think there's sort of like this other story, this other story, you know, that they could sort of play into everything going on with the Dark Order. So I want your take on all that. I just want to say this match I thought was fantastic, pretty much right up until the end when things got messy, because I think they needed to rush to get it, you know, to get in what they needed to get in. But the rest of this match was fantastic. Great to see a huge response for Kenny and for Jericho. And the moments that they had in the ring together, really, really well done. I didn't necessarily have a problem with this, like I said, until the finish. But Schlong, what did you think about this whole thing?
Okay, so a couple things. Match was fantastic. I'm with you. The ending seemed rushed because they definitely were tight on time when you got to the, the fact that they went over 10, which they never do. So I'm with you. They were very tight on time. I will say, I don't get why these trios matches have tags at all. just make them tornado. You end up being that way anyway, and then it solves the issue of who's the legal man. You know, it just makes things a lot smoother if you just make them tornado. It would make it unique for the trios division. I mean, it's unique anyway because it's unique anyway because it's what you call it, trios and not tag. But still, I would make it no tags, just tornado. That stuff is such a minor thing to me though, because if sometimes we lose track of who's legal, so I can understand the ref losing track of who's legal. So I don't really think too much about it. Fantastic match. House of Black is awesome. The Elite is awesome. The JAS look great. I mean, everyone looked great. The moment after with Hangman standing there and then just chills, you're like, oh crap, like are they going back? They're going back to that story. Like clearly there's been hints on BTE. Now they're doing it here. They're clearly that story is going to be told again. I will say I did love that they were fighting all over the arena. I thought that was really cool. I actually like when WWE does it and they do that sometimes. I love it's like, yeah, these guys can't get along so much that they just fight everywhere. I don't want it all the time, but I do like that they got brought to the back and they found themselves again and they're fighting. I don't want the Dark Order to fight for Hangman's loyalty. I want this to be the moment where they're like, either you're with us or you're not, but we're done.
Right. And I'm with you there. I think I've said the same thing, but I think that this now gives you that possibility, right? With what happened with the Elite. So I think that at least that gives that could be like the story, but there's that possibility. I mean, I don't want to again fight over him. No, but I think it raises the question like, hey man, like where's your head?
No, I would be fine if it was even an acrimonious stepping aside of them being like, listen, you'll always be our friend, but clearly you have unresolved issues with them that you need to go work out. We're going to go do our thing where we're fully attuned to us. Go have fun. And just, it doesn't have to end in like violence. Isn't it? And I know people are like, well, this is wrestling. It does. I get that, but there's no story in which they tell that in which I think works great unless you're willing to turn the Dark Order heel, which I don't think they're set up for at the moment. Or you're willing to turn Hangman heel, which again, I don't think that's set up for at the moment. So I just would have them say, we're not here to fight. Just go be with who, your old friends. We understand, we're still friends. We're just not, we're not doing this. You go do what you got to do. So that's my only point there. But yeah, the match was incredible. I don't think that the outcome was ever in doubt because I don't think anyone ever thought that they'd give the belts right back to the Elite. And I don't think anyone ever thought the JAS would get it. But still a ton of fun.
So much fun. 3 really great teams. So definitely check this one out. And it was a great show and a great debut for Winnipeg, if you ask me. I think everybody got a good show. If you went to it, it should be good. And we'll see what Rampage holds on Friday night. It's the Shamrock Slam or whatever they're calling it on Friday. So Schlong, let's touch on some news and notes from over the past week. So clearly last week we were talking more about Revolution, but for the math nerds out there, people are very interested, Schlong, in how much wrestling actually took place during a pay-per-view. And it looks like AEW once again sort of cemented themselves as the home of pro wrestling because there was a lot of wrestling on that pay-per-view, which I guess is what you want to get when you're shelling out $50 for a wrestling show.
Yes.
So, for those who maybe don't remember, there were 8 total matches on the main card of Revolution 2023 in San Francisco. The show lasted, the main show, we're talking just about the pay-per-view, lasted 3 hours, 49 minutes, 1 second. And the overall wrestling time, this is rough estimates, added up to 2 hours, 52 minutes, 0 seconds, which roughly winds up being 75.1% of the show. Now, in retrospect, the overall time match percentage for all 19 pay-per-views AEW has put on is 65.1%. So they increased it for this show. And to compare against the E, their overall match percentage for 138 wrestling pay-per-views since the start of 2013 is 53.7%. So a lot more wrestling out of AEW on their pay-per-views, but they definitely delivered on this pay-per-view. So just for any of the math nerds out there wondering about how much of that actually went on, there you go. Let's see. Also, a lot of people out there wondering why the title changed from All Atlantic to International. It was basically just a cross-promotional idea that was asked of AEW. So they were asked for an idea to help promote Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and TK apparently had a new championship belt made months ago with this plan in mind. So this is where they decided to debut it, and it was simply a cross-promotional idea. So nothing more there. Just basically trying to get it done.
Yeah.
Schlong, there's also been a lot of free agency sort of talk. And a lot of it's sort of been revolving around, obviously, the EVPs, because some of their deals are coming up. Meltzer, in one of his latest reports, gave some thoughts about, the thought process of Omega and Matt and Nick Jackson's sort of choice on AEW versus WWE. But basically beyond what his initial thoughts were is the rumors are that nobody knows the exact dates of when Omega and Matt and Nick Jackson would hit free agency. In Kenny's case, basically there could be injury time added onto his deal because he was hurt, and out with the surgery stuff for so long. But the Bucks also had a 2021 extension that they signed, but the sort of thought is that they're going to expire later this year or early next. So rumors are that AEW is trying to work through all the details right now to re-sign them, but obviously nothing is set in stone. Now, Schlong, we always talk about it. Could they jump ship? Sure, anybody can jump ship if the deal is right, but these would certainly be huge blows to AEW if they lost guys who started the company to go to the competitor.
Yeah, that'd be huge. I mean, I'm of the boat that if you're Tony Khan, whatever money you have to pay them, you pay them. I don't think there's any debate about that. I think you have to pay these guys to stay. I think there's just too much tied up in them.
Yeah, I agree. I think you sign them up, especially Kenny. I think you got to keep Kenny around. The Bucks too. I don't see them working anywhere else for the E, especially. But you never know. The money, if the E offers them a boatload of money and they want money, that's where you're going to find it. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye and an ear to the ground, our eyes open and our ears to the ground. Schlong, some sort of unfortunate news from last week or over the last week. Arn Anderson shared news that his son, his oldest son, Barrett, passed away. So it was really unfortunate news. He actually, I think, broke it on his Arn Show podcast. And he said that last night, I think it was on the 11th or the 10th of March, my family suffered a loss that should never be felt by any parent. Our older son, Barrett, passed away. I'm struggling to write this. Tell those you love that you love them. Barrett was just 37. Now, honestly, I don't know any of the details sort of surrounding that, but still just terrible news. Nothing you want to see from anybody having to deal with. So that was out there. So we just want to make sure we reported it.
7 is too young.
Way too young. Way too young. Schlong, there's also been news out there that AEW is reportedly close to adding another weekly TV show. So obviously they run 2 shows every week. That's Dynamite 2 hours on Wednesdays at 8 on TBS. Rampage 1 hour on Friday nights, normally at 10 p.m. Eastern. And according to Matt Menz, Andrew Zarian, there may be another show. He said that a third show is coming in that he would expect an announcement maybe next month of something. And he alluded to the fact that it could air on Saturday nights at 6:05 p.m., which was, if you recall, Schlong, you're a WCW fan. That was Saturday night, WCW Saturday night on TBS.
Yes, it was. That's how I remember watching a lot of wrestling.
So the thought is that if they did run a 6:05 on Saturday nights, it would be an hour show. If they did that, their roster is big enough where they could fill another hour with people who really aren't getting much time on television. And I think Tony Khan has pretty much sort of said that in the past where, if there was more time, he could get more talent on. So who knows? We'll see. TK did also say that he's got more announcements coming, so maybe this is going to be one of them. Schlong, would a third show on television do anything for you?
Depends on what it is and who's on it. I mean, here's my thing. Everyone's like, well, this will be everyone keeps saying it's their fourth because they're going to have this after Dynamite show, and I don't count that. If you're not giving me in-ring wrestling, you don't count. That's a totally different genre, totally different show. I think they have, like you said, they have the talent to do it. To me, That's how you get live Rampage.
Yeah.
You record those two shows together. You do Dynamite on its own, and you do live Rampage with your Saturday night show together. And there you go. You have your live Rampage, which really helps Rampage out. And I'm sure, I mean, then you have your recorded Saturday night, which is fine. I don't expect live wrestling Saturday night at 6:05. I think it'd be a cool throwback from times when we used to see it.
I mean, the other thing, Schlong, too, is you could potentially even throw, if you were going to do something like that and say, we're then going to sort of tour around with a live Rampage. Yes, you tape the Saturday night show on Friday night, but maybe then you also run a 3-hour Friday night show, right? So a live show would be 3 hours and you film an hour of like Ring of Honor.
Yeah, you could do a lot of things. I think there's more benefits to it than people might consider, because I think it might improve Rampage, or you might get some live Ring of Honor. Well, not live, but Ring of Honors in different crowds and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Schlong, we should note too that we've been talking about Rampage. So 10 o'clock has historically been a tough time on Friday nights, but it seems like TNT is pretty happy with it. What doesn't help is the fact that all of these things, like a lot of times it's sporting events, force the change for them to air it. And they did announce that Rampage this Friday will air at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern, because there is a late night NCAA tournament game. So the next show on the 24th was actually moved to Saturday night at 10 p.m. on the 25th, because there is going to be TNT airing the U.S. versus Grenada soccer game. So a couple of weeks are going to, it looks like, be off, sort of off schedule Rampage. This is the only reason, going back to our discussion about doing a live Rampage, this is the only reason it makes it tough, right? Because if it's not going to air live, or if you're going to be on at 11:30, you can't film it at 10 o'clock and then have it ready for air and then deliver it, unless you literally do it live to tape and then it's ready to air. But that's tough.
No, I mean, so there will always be adjustments they'll have to make. Like, I still think they should try to be live as much more than they're taped, but you're going to have to just tape some. This is where I think people don't realize the value of a Rampage to like TBS, or TNT. It's a built-in show that they can just move around as necessary, but has an audience that will watch. It may be down, but it still will have an audience looking for it. And yes, you could put on repeats and all, but there's value to having a new episode of something coming on after these other shows. And I think this is what makes AEW a good partner to them, is that AEW doesn't complain. They're like, just move us where you need to move us, and we'll do what we got to do.
Right. I mean, the terrible thing is that you do see, when they move the time around to these later times on Fridays, the ratings just tank, right? Like, I think a few weeks ago, it got bumped by the NBA. I don't know if it was earlier or later. It might have actually been earlier, and it was some of the worst numbers that they've ever had. And the worst thing is, I think they said it's going to air at 7 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock, it wasn't the start of NBA. It was something else. Like, they should have put it on directly in front of the NBA.
Yes, that's stuff they need to work around a little bit. But again, with the debates coming of I think in the next year or so, they're going to be negotiating TV rights. An extra two shows, one wrestling, one not, and then the willingness to flip around all plays very heavily in AEW's favor for getting a nice, good deal.
Right. Absolutely. And then beyond, so we're talking about the scheduling in the immediate future. They also announced that there is a scheduling conflict, believe it or not, around the pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. So we already know that the Rampage ahead of that pay-per-view is not going to be on Friday night. Due to network scheduling, the Rampage show leading up to Double or Nothing is going to air on Saturday, May 27th at 10 p.m. or after the NBA conference finals on TNT. Because, of course, what happens if a game goes into overtime and blah, 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 that can always push the start date back. So even this Friday Schlong, they say at about 11:30 because that game might not end till 11:45, and now Rampage is going on the air at midnight. So it sucks, but we'll make do. So just keep those.
As I'm glad I don't have to host a post show like one of our members who's not here right now.
Hey, listen, you signed up for it. You know the deal. So Schlong, the other thing too is, we've been, we haven't been talking about, but AEW has been pushing the House Rules sort of tour that's going around the non-televised events. This Saturday night is the first one, and it's taking place in Troy, Ohio, at the Hobart Arena.
I know some people are down on these. I think they make sense. Go to places that will never get a TV viewing. Do a house show. You're not going to always, you don't have to. They have enough talent where there'll still be some great talent. There will be a lot of fun. It's just good live wrestling for groups that'll never get to see an AEW show unless they travel to a major city.
Yeah. And the way that they said when they announced this was these shows were going to be a little different. Now, who knows what that means, right? Like if there's going to be some sort of live fan interaction, like, I don't know, Schlong, but I've been to some events where like they'll take live polls, right? And you text a number or something like that. And, they'll give the results, or maybe they'll have stuff like that. I don't know. They haven't really gone and said too much about what it's going to be like. But what I can tell you is that they did announce a couple matches on the card. So we know that we're going to see Blackpool Combat Club, that's John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, are going to be taking on the firm's Big Bill and Lee Moriarty at House Rules. They also announced that we're going to have Britt Baker versus JAS. JAS's Anna Jay. So those are really the two main matches that they announced for the card. So not really anything else is known. But again, I feel like if you want to see wrestling and they're not coming to your market, like you said, this is a great way to sort of see what the show's like. And I'll tell you the truth. If they came in this area somewhere that was, not a major market, like maybe they went to a, I don't know, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, or even like a Scranton, like I would make the trip to sort of see what the live Saturday show was about, and I'm sure others would too if they're so inclined. But it should be interesting. Hopefully we'll hear a little bit about what the show was like and maybe get a full card. But we'll see. The first one is Saturday in Troy. I think tickets are still available. So if you're in the area, check it out.
There you go.
Couple more things, Schlong. Quick stuff. Kenny Omega was asked about a few things when he was profiled by Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's Front Burner podcast ahead of this show tonight. And he was asked about the Golden Lover storyline with Kota Ibushi. That was a year-long storyline, for those who don't know, where their partnership and rivalry basically played out during their time with Japan's DDT and New Japan promotions. And it was heralded as a trailblazing LGBTQ plus positive story. And Kenny said it's a far cry from other stories about gay or gay presenting wrestlers who were treated as a punchline or a bad comedy I wanted to tell a story that whether you were straight, whether you're gay, whether you are, X, Y, Z, didn't matter. You could look at this story and you could appreciate the love between two individuals, the hardships of being in a competitive business, struggling together, struggling apart, and the power that they have when they're focused together as a team. So that's his little spiel on the story. But Schlong, he also has a quote out there making the rounds where he was asked about his wrestling future, because obviously there's a lot of reports about the WWE trying to sign him and his AEW contract expiring. And he said, I always kind of try to find my own way, or at least try to lean in the direction of where My heart is pulling me. I haven't had that sort of epiphany yet. So, doesn't sound like he's really come to any decision on what's going to happen. I mean, I think he's obviously not giving anything away, but I wonder if some of what happens with Ibushi maybe makes a difference on where he lands. Rumors were that there was, interest from the E, but Ibushi wants to be able to run a wrestling school and do wrestling and sort of do his own thing. I don't know. So just a couple of things that came out in an interview with the CBC. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think he's playing his cards close to his chest.
Of course. Schlong, big news out of the wrestling world this week, too, was that the Garcia twins, formerly known as the Bella twins, are basically done with the WWE once their contracts are up. So they dropped the Bella surnames that they had been using. They're now going by Nikki and Brie Garcia. And they basically just said, we want to move on to some other things. But there's a lot of people out there who think maybe they're headed to AEW because they've been vocal about the E's treatment of them specifically and women's wrestling in general. Brie Bella's husband, Bryan Danielson, works at AEW. They recently visited Revolution in San Francisco. And then Britt Baker put a picture of them together up from when, Britt was younger. And they basically said, thank you, Britt. It means more than you'll ever know. Keep kicking ass. And then Britt said, there's not a single female wrestler today who wasn't somehow inspired or influenced by Nikki and Brie. Thank you. So a lot of people are maybe saying they're going to head to AEW. Well, unfortunately, folks, Nikki shot it down on Instagram Live. She said, we're not going to AEW. I know I've seen a lot of that because I think we were just there visiting Renee and Paige or Saraya. I was like, I haven't had the opportunity to take Mateo, that's her son, backstage to a wrestling event. And when he knew Uncle Brian was going to be there, Mateo loves his Uncle Brian. Brie and I were like, we have to go see Brian. The kids had so much fun. So right now, they're not headed to AEW. I don't think there's anything more to this. But what I'll say, Schlong, is you never say never in this business.
I see them showing up for like a match, not them wrestling, but like a Danielson match or an off like part of the reality show after that they're doing after or whatever, maybe, but they're not going to be part of AEW. People need to relax.
But again, I would never say never.
I don't think those two have any interest in wrestling again.
Oh, I'm not saying to wrestle, but they could be involved with the company in some way.
And that's fine if they are. I have no problems if they are.
Trust me. I don't need to see them wrestle again.
No,
That's
they don't
okay.
want. I don't want them wrestling, but I have no problems if they want to come and just do other stuff.
Do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But never say never. And Schlong, the biggest news of today, this is the final story we have. Biggest news of today is that AEW did announce a massive 6-show summer Canadian tour, and it was going to kick off with the return of Forbidden Door in Toronto. So they did put out a press release. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but basically, they're going to start in June, touring across Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan for shows including Dynamite, Rampage, House Rules, and the return of AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. There are going to be a number of market debuts, including the Wednesday, June 28th show, AEW Dynamite and Rampage, live from First Ontario Centre in Hamilton, Ontario. Tickets for that go on sale the 24th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Wednesday, July 5th, AEW Dynamite and Rampage, live from Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta. Those also go on sale the 24th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, though. Wednesday, July 12th, just Dynamite from SaskTel Center in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Those go on sale Friday, March 24th at 10 a.m. Central. Friday, July 14th, a live Rampage from the Brandt Center in Regina, Saskatchewan. Those go on sale March 24th, 10 a.m. Central. And then Saturday, July 15th, AEW House Rules live at Saddle Dome as part of Canada's iconic annual cultural event, the Calgary Stampede in Calgary, Alberta. Those tickets go on sale Friday, March 17th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. All those tickets can be purchased at AEWTix.com. And I actually don't think I gave an exact date, but the Forbidden Door pay-per-view is happening Sunday, June 25th at Scotiabank Center in Toronto. Tickets do go on sale for that March 24th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, Schlong, they're doing a good push in Canada. I think it's a market that they've wanted to be in. You got to maybe sort of do Canada in the summer so you don't chance there being terrible winter weather. So this all makes sense, and pretty awesome that Canada's going to get Forbidden Door.
Yeah, they've been waiting a while because of COVID. I'm glad that they're getting their tour and they're getting a major event. So good for them.
And it does leave room too for anybody in this area, like the Northeast, to be able to get over to Toronto for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. I'm not saying we're going. I'm not even throwing that out there, but I'm just saying, having that pay-per-view in a place like Toronto, you're going to get Canada and you're going to get people from the US, traveling over for that one especially. So that should be an awesome event. And now we clearly know, because there hadn't been any confirmed sort of when it's happening, if it's happening. He said it, basically was going to, but there were no details. So it's nice now, Schlong, to know we're going to get that June pay-per-view in.
Yeah, it's nice.
Should be a lot of fun. Schlong, that is it. A lot of little news and notes from the past week, but we are done. Okay. So why don't we plug a few things, Schlong? Why don't you tell the people where you are when you're not here?
Every Monday and Tuesday, you can find me live tweeting Dark and Dark Elevation at Mark Order Pod. I'm there the rest of the week too. Just don't be a jerk, and I will love to get in any discussion with you, wrestling, whatever. I mean, I love wrestling discussions, so feel free to engage.
And please, dear God, you must love Lord of the Rings, The Muppets. What other sort of stuff do I see coming out of there?
Okay, first of all, that was someone posting a Muppet comparison to Jungle Boy. I'm all about that.
I'm just saying.
The Lord of the Rings thing, I get wrapped up in them, but that's the fun. The wrestling community is diverse. They're all wrestling people. Come join us. If you have a weird thing that's wrestling related or not wrestling related, but you're a wrestling fan, come and engage. I talk about everything.
Ryan, is it okay for people to tell you to shut the fuck up about Lord of the Rings if they hate Lord of the Rings? It's not wrestling related. So is it okay for them to be a dick about non-wrestling stuff?
No, it's never okay to be a dick.
All right. I just figured I'd ask.
I mean, I don't want you to be a dick about wrestling, so I don't want you to be a dick about non-wrestling. Just don't be a dick.
All right. Well, I had to clear it. All right, Schlong, other than that, I'll plug some of the other stuff. Schlong said it. Follow us on Twitter and all our socials at Mark Order Pod. If you're following us on one of them, hit that link tree in the bio. You can find all the links directly to our other social channels to make it easier for yourself to give us a follow. We appreciate anybody who does follow us. It helps us out greatly, more than actually you think. So check it out. Give us a follow. Even if you mute us, who cares? Just the follows truly do help us. The other thing you can do by accessing that link tree is requesting free stickers. We like sending free stickers out. We like making sure people can support us. So hit that button in the link tree. Give us your full name, your full mailing address, and the country you live in, and your email, just in case we have any questions about your address. And we will send you out some of these free Mark Order Podcast stickers. Absolutely free anywhere in the world. Schlong, I'll say this. I thought Australia mail was going to break the bank. Not so much. Not so much.
Good.
The other thing you could do to support us, if you'd like to spend some of your hard-earned dollars on us, is head over to that link tree and click on the link to our Pro Wrestling Tees store. If you're not in the link tree, you can head over to prowrestlingtees.com/MarkOrderPod or just Pro Wrestling Tees and search for Mark Order Podcast. Our store should pop right up. We've got 4 shirts in there. 2 of them are single-sided, just the front. The other 2 are double-sided. So if you see something you like, and you feel like giving us a couple of your bucks, we greatly appreciate it. We can't believe people would be willing to do that, but some are, and we thank you greatly for it. And if you order a shirt, I'll give you a call to say thank you personally. The other thing is, thanks everybody who is watching along with us live tonight. We see you out there, the Jesse Ozogs, the Gordon Posts, the Cabbage Senseis. Kate was in here hanging out for a little bit. Sloanamite, of course, Asian Joe. Oh my God, I'm scrolling. Kate stopped in for a few minutes, but you know, who knows? Eric Freeds was in here for a while. The Broadcast checked in from Australia. And even, I don't know how or why, AEW checked in. So thank you for checking in. We'd love to talk to you or some of your people. So definitely hit us up, please. So thank you to everybody who watched live. And if you're listening in podcast form, we thank you for checking us out as well. If you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening in podcast form, if you could take a few minutes out of your day to subscribe to us, like, rate, review, all that kind of stuff, believe it or not, on YouTube and on podcast platforms really helps us show up in the algorithm. So if you could take a few minutes to do those things, we appreciate it. If you listen in podcast form and have never watched us, definitely check out the YouTube channel. All of our shows live there forever, and you can see Ryan's characters like the Captain, Rate the Great, oh wait, those aren't characters, those are actual people. You can check out Ryan, me, Kate, Matt's run-ins, and all the other cast of characters we have, like the Captain, the Concerned Citizen, Rate the Great. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other ones, Schlong.
And who knows who will come in the future.
We do sometimes. It's Schlong, but he loves to dress up in his country western outfit.
Yeah, but that's me. That is fully me.
So you should definitely check us out. If you never checked us out in video form, you can head over to the YouTube if you're listening in podcast form. And honestly, Schlong, other than that, I got nothing. You can catch me here on Wednesday nights. And we're working on some stuff for the future. So stay tuned to us. Help spread the word. You're in it from the ground floor. So we thank you guys for the support. Schlong, really quick before we go, I didn't see this. Jesse Ozog said, are you a comic book guy?
Yes. I mean, I fall in and out because it's just so hard to keep track of all of them. But yes, I am.
Schlong, I'll say this. It was a very proud moment. This weekend, we were running around on Sunday. We had baby money with us. And I took him to the comic book store for the first time. Now, he's not really reading, but we're using this as a ploy to like help push him along, right? Like, hey, you learn to read, we'll continue to buy you comic books. You know what I mean? So took him to the comic book store. He loved everything he saw in there. He did not want to leave. Like, he was like, Pokemon, awesome. Ooh, Power Ranger figures, cool. Ooh, Ninja Turtles and like wrestling figures. They had like everything. And they did have like a kid's version of like a comic book, something that's like put out by Scholastic or whoever. So we picked that up, and then there were a couple 25-cent comics that were like in his wheelhouse, you know, like Spider-Man and the West Coast Avengers, like things that he thought looked cool that we picked up. So he loved it. So first trip in the books for the boy to the comic book store, and he's been fucking dragging those comic books everywhere he goes.
There you go. You're doing it right, Ant.
He got mad that he couldn't take him to school, but he was like, but I could bring him in the car. I'm like, okay, yes, you're right.
Bring him in the car.
So there you go, Jesse. He likes comic books. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Tune in next week. We're going to be back here discussing Dynamite and all things All Elite Wrestling. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe we'll have Kate back next week. You're definitely going to have a 2 live crew, and we'll see what else happens. But stay cool through the week, and we will see you next time on the Mark Order podcast, part of the Shining Wizards Network.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.